What's our line, green or red?
You're live on red.
Okay. The Board of Supervisors of St. Croix County will come to order. The first item of business is our invocation. I'm going to call on Tim Sackett to give that. Tim has been doing this for 11 years. He's done over 40 invocations for us over those years, although this is the first one he's done this year. So Tim, welcome to the podium again, and thank you for all your service to the county and to so many people that you've helped over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, first time this year, so I'm a little rusty. No, I'm not. So, Chairman, thank you. Board members, county staff people, thank you for the invitation and being here. It's always at my best, our best service we can provide for you to come do these invocations. So with that, let's pray. Our great God in heaven, we're thankful for your word, which reminds us in Isaiah 58 that you can keep all of us going. You provide guidance and strength. It's like a well-watered garden. It's like a wellspring that flows continuously. So in this evening and in this hour, I ask you to give all of the members of this board the strength for those who are weary, clarity for all the chaotic things going on, peace to the ones that have any pain, comfort for anyone in sorrow, and refreshing to the weary. Lord, we thank you for the servants that are here serving this county. We know that you give wisdom to those who want to be in the public square. In this public square, there are plenty of requests and demands, plenty of questions, and wisdom is important. So we thank you for both the servanthood and the leadership that they give at this board meeting and in all of their other meetings and all the conversations they have. It all goes hand in hand. So we ask you, Lord, to help us to remember your word from Isaiah 58. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Tim, and you're going to be on call for the next 11 years as well, so don't go too far. With that, we now will have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask those who can stand and place their right hand over their heart to do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item on the agenda is our roll call, and I will ask the clerk, has everybody signed in?
Yes, but I'll help with you.
Okay, so officially everybody is present. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the audience tonight. Hopefully we'll have a very good night. We've got a full agenda. I am making one ever so slight adjustment to the agenda. It won't affect anything in the long run, but I'm moving public comment back ever so slightly so that we can hear so that all of you can hear a very important presentation that deals with one of the topics that we'll also have on our business agenda. So at this point, we're going to move to the consent agenda. And I'll ask, does any supervisor have any objection to anything that's now on the consent agenda and would like to remove it? If not, I'll entertain a motion to bring the consent agenda to the body. Supervisor Rice, second. Supervisor Barklow. Discussion. Is there any discussion of the consent agenda? Hearing none, we're prepared to vote.
Popping up for everyone? I only have 5 votes in so far.
Mike says it's already been voted.
I only have Beeler, Shirley, Carter, Delaney, Schmidt, and Bush. The ones you have or don't? The ones I have.
We can take a voice vote, right?
We can.
We're having a little electronic problem up here with our vote count, so I think we'll just go to a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The consent agenda is adopted. At this point, I'm going to call on Jason or Tim if he's here. Is Tim here with us? Oh, there's Tim back there. I didn't see Tim back there. Tim, come on forward. Tim is the water expert in St. Croix County. Been with us for a long time and does a great job. And he did, I'll just say, authored a great report, was in charge of a great report on water and the future of water in St. Croix County. And I know the report was submitted to the Community Development Committee a couple months ago, but now is the first opportunity for the full board to hear the highlights of that report. So I'll call on Tim to give that.
Okay, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. We do a lot of work in community development, and it's good to see that it percolates up to the larger body. I'll be presenting on a community development's work to address groundwater nitrates in the county. I'm Tim Stieber, Land and Water Conservation Administrator, and Patty Schrank, our Water Resource Specialist, helped me put this together. Our program, if you will, is in the county is basically important because groundwater is our sole source of drinking water here, and nitrate is the most common contaminant that we fight. We work to educate landowners and educate well owners about this problem. We work to assess groundwater and trends. We look for hot spots. We work to reduce nitrates. So we have kind of a comprehensive program. There we go. Next slide. The reason we care for this is that it is a health risk that kind of can cause health problems. And we do have a substantial number of wells over the 10 parts per million standard. And there's so many sources of nitrate that it's easy to just kind of not be concerned about it because it's getting in from all these different sources, and can we really actually affect it? But there are some health risks that have been identified. It increases the health problems if you have high nitrates and people don't take action. We've been doing work here since 1990s, I was told, in nitrates and encouraging testing, but right about 2017, 2018, the county got pretty serious about water protection. They assigned a special task force, a study group, if you will, and they looked at ground and surface water in the county. As far as nitrates are concerned, they wanted us to determine severity, extent, trend, and sources of nitrate. It's a lot to do. And they wanted to work on education about it, work with farm operators, and explore regulatory options and ordinances. And I was hired early in 1999, and this was on my desk. Next slide. One of the first things that we were able to do is we set up what's called the CGMP, the Citizens Groundwater Monitoring Program, which was a study, long-term study that we plan to run for 10 years, and now it's in its 8th year, where we're looking at about 160 wells sampled annually to look for trends. So these were randomly selected wells, so this will get at the trend as well as the geographic distribution of the problem that we have here. Results from last year kind of show us pretty indicative of the problem that we have, even though we're only at like 15% of the wells over the drinking standard, which is a high number by what some people would think, and other counties might think that's a low number. Because of our high rural population, and about 50% of the people in the county live in the rural areas, that equates to about over 2,600 wells are over the drinking standard in the county. And that's almost 7,000 residents have that water, and that's the only water they're probably going to have, so they have to treat if they know that it's high. Another concern is that there's a large number of wells and a large number of people that are served by those wells that are approaching that legal drinking limit. Next slide. Kind of without getting into the weeds on the statistics, there's a lot more statistical trend towards increasing nitrates in our county than there is towards decreasing. Next slide. if you take all the wells that have a statistically verifiable trend, and we're only able to do that because we stuck with that study for all of these years. Last year was the first year we were able to get statistical trends, and we had 34 wells had a trend. 8 were decreasing, and we can, we've actually looked at these wells and where they're located in the county and why they're probably going down. And then we have 26 that are actually increasing over the 8 years of the study. And that's kind of a big concern because that's 20% or more of the wells that we have in our study. So just to kind of put it into colors, because everybody learns a little bit different. Some people probably can't handle the statistics and things of that nature, but DNR has a tier system, tier 1, 2, 3, and if you're tier 3, blue on there, you really don't have a problem. Forest, we haven't been able to collect the 25 samples yet, so we'll get to that eventually, but we'd like to have 25 samples at least to do this calculation. It'll probably be blue as well, but so we have 4 towns that have really no problem with nitrates. The yellow is a concern, it's approaching a problem, but the red ones definitely have a problem with nitrates, and so there's a good portion of the county that calls for some sort of proactive measure to work on nitrates. Of course, then when you get down to the fun stuff is like, where's this coming from? Everybody starts pointing fingers at the other sources. We've got agriculture, septic systems, manure, and lawns is where that get a lot of the blame. And we don't have to look too far because this is a statewide problem. The position of the state agencies that work on this is that, which is listed on the right, those are the main agencies. They've been presenting to the legislature for quite a number of years, 8 years at least, where they stick to about 90% of this nitrate is from agriculture in Wisconsin. And it varies from different counties, and about 9% from septic and 1% from lawns. We have areas of the county that kind of are a higher concern than others, and one of them is in what we call the Kinney Headwaters region. And we wrote a grant and acquired some funding to pay for a plan to be developed for that area to study it and determine what we could probably do. And we've got some results from that. The reason we're working in that area is if you look at the graph there, the top 2 lines are from Roberts Municipal Well. So the third one down is from Hammond. Those wells are not over the legal drinking limit now, but if those communities ever get over 10, I don't think they could afford to treat the water. It's so expensive to treat water at that magnitude. And so we obtained money to write a plan to try to reduce these nitrates because it could impact those rural areas with municipal wells. So it's a wellhead protection type of a grant. Also around those communities are numerous wells there's like 1,800 wells in that study area, and the average nitrates listed in the table there is almost 10 parts per million average in the headwaters area, and that's about 38% of wells over the drinking limit, and 32% in the nearby Twin Lakes area, and we included an area that had lower because we wanted to see what was different about it. Anyway, we worked on that area to model what we saw and calculate the nitrogen load into that groundwater because there's something going on in that particular area that makes it different from the rest of the county and truly a little problematic, actually. And so we calculated the nitrogen load using groundwater data because we've been doing all this work. We had 619 samples that we could use to do the calculation. Then we tried to build a model of nitrogen load using land use and leaching, and I'll show you why we did that and its value. And we did the modeling of that, and then we used the model to test solutions. What can we do to this problem? And I didn't know the answer when I started. Might have got the answer where there's nothing we can do. And then I could, sit down at the tavern bar with everyone and say, there's nothing you can do. But that isn't the answer I'm going to give you at the end. There is stuff we can do, as it turns out. So then we use that model to test scenarios, and we wanted to test scenarios with a model that we knew was verified in our county, and we wanted to test things that are already proven. We don't have to do research. We want to test standard best management practices. No, like taking people's land or acreage or getting rid of the cows or going to organic. All those are great things sometimes in some places, but we didn't want to have anything like that be the solution. We wanted to test what's already available for people to do, and then with emphasis on adoption of those. So first we did the well data, and we came up with some large number of load that is going into that aquifer annually. That's about 750,000 pounds of nitrate is going into that aquifer. Remember, we got a 67,000 acre area there, so it's a big number. Next, we looked at land use, and we used research values for all the leaching, depending on the crop and how it's grown, and septic systems. We got all the best data for that, and we're plugging all that in. And we then were able to develop what we call the baseline data, which is the middle column there. And it turns out, when you do it meticulously, you get a very close estimate of using our baseline data. Well, it's quite close to what you actually can measure in the ground. The difference is that with the baseline data, you look with it tells you where that nitrate's coming from. And so, 70% is coming from corn production, 10 from soybeans, and on down the line with manure and lawn and septic and that kind of a thing. And so this told us if we're going to solve this problem, we know where we can go for best management practices. We have to work with corn. It's a big crop. It's a cash crop in our area. We have to work with corn. Next. So then we looked at what practices can we apply there. Crop rotation turned out to be very important. Increasing that nitrogen efficiency in corn is key. Putting on cover crops can make a big difference. And reducing manure application rates. Those are the things we tested in our model. And it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? To step back for a second, how are we going to actually get people to do these practices? Well, our model at Land and Water, we've been working under for a long time. It's pretty typical of Land and Water divisions across the state. We work with leadership, which is you folks and our board, the CDC committee. They have been nothing but supportive in our work. So that's where it starts. They funded this work to figure out these things. They've funded our work to do the education of the landowners and cost share and those kinds of things. And then also we work collaboratively with the other agencies. So we work with DNR, we work with whoever we need to get funding. Then we use technical and financial systems assistance for doing cost share with landowners. Of course, we do the education outreach. We've done probably something 20, 30, some free clinics for landowners so they can come bring their samples in. I think we've tested over 4,000 samples in the last 8 years. So we've been doing the basic model of what conservation programs will do, and we apply voluntary first, regulatory process second, and we've been able to get a lot done. So how did it turn out? So our baseline data, remember we have about 38% of the wells in headwaters is over the drinking limit, 32% Twin Lakes. If we don't do anything, it could get worse. So if we get more of what is causing the problem in that area, say corn prices go to $8 a bushel or something like that, everybody goes crazy, plants more corn, and we don't have BMPs in place on those corn acres, we could get worse. It could get truly a large number of people over the legal drinking limit. 50% adoption rate on those BMPs that I showed on the screen would not only, remember, we have a trend in this area of going up. So we first had to stop the trend of going up, which is a bit of a handicap. But we have to take care of that first. Then we can start to decrease. And with the 50% adoption of those practices, which you feel we could reach in a sustained effort, we could more than half the number of people in Twin Lakes. Headwaters would be more difficult. It would take longer because, remember, its concentration is right close to 10 already. So it's very difficult to move that standard curve down below. But those effects we feel would also be felt outside of the area because people would adopt practices just by watching and seeing what's going on. And that's what we're doing to address nitrates in our division. And we thank the board for all the support they've given us to study the water, do the education outreach, and be able to speak here tonight.
Tim, thank you to you and your staff for doing all the work required to make that outstanding report. I'd like to just call on Chairman Counter of the Community Development Committee, if he'd like to make any comments about where he intends to go with this report. You've got a busy committee, Scott, but would you care to comment on that or comment and any other questions for Tim?
Thank you, Chairman. First off, Tim, can just bring people up to speed. How does, we've been talking a lot about nitrates. And how do the nitrates impact people? How does it physically, why is this such an important thing that we need to work on?
Thank you, Supervisor Counter. It's one of those issues where it's a chronic exposure. It's not like some of the other pollution that you may have been around over the years where there's a spill and it's very toxic and people can get sick immediately. It's more of a chronic exposure, and so since it's tasteless, colorless, odorless, people will just drink. I'll have at the clinic, I've had nursing mothers come in with 12 parts per million water, and that's what they're drinking. And that's very much a danger to that baby. So you have blue baby syndrome, because young children under 6 months cannot process nitrate, and they can get toxic symptoms from that. It can actually be fatal. For adults, it increases your chance of different hypertension, thyroid problems. If we go to some of the areas of the country where they have extremely high nitrates, there's high cancer rates, most notably to our south in Iowa. There's more cancer that they're finding in some of those rural areas that you think would be a healthy place to live because it's out in a rural area, but they're exposed to these high nitrates their whole life. They're developing more cancers. So also, just to add to that, and we're trying to get better data on it, is that the higher the nitrates generally is linked to other materials that can get in as well. So the nitrates serve as an indicator of the vulnerability of your well. So if you have a very low nitrate, you probably have a pretty safe well. If it's high nitrates, maybe not. Other materials may be getting in there with chemicals, so from the surface.
So another thing I just wanted to bring up that you had in your report was that areas like Hammond and Roberts and their continuing influence over higher nitrates, and it's been at a pretty high percentage increase over the last years as we've been testing and keeping records on it. The one thing, though, that we want to point out is that those wells are municipal wells, which are drilled, at 500 feet or so, versus most of the residential wells are at a much lower depth. And that has also a major impact on the shallower wells that are the people that they have generally a higher percentage yield of the nitrates in those shallower wells versus the municipal. But yet we see a trend in the municipal wells, which are very deep. You expand, or if you have anything on
I
that.
can. That was a classic, what we always thought. And now we have wells that are 200-300 feet deep that are over 10 in some areas. And I think that has to do with our karst. In some areas, it's all in the Prairie du Chien. So most of the municipalities, when they have to invest in a municipal well, they're drilling down into the sandstone, which is beneath the Prairie du Chien, to get clean water. The water, it's not fractured into that new formation, and so it's very pure. But that's a high expense, and landowners generally are not going to be able to afford that. And so if they have high nitrates, they're almost better off to treat the water in the home versus trying to drill themselves deeper, because sometimes with the fractures, it can follow it down. So it's one thing we're learning is that the deeper you go into the formation, generally it's cleaner, but in that particular area, they don't seem to be drilling themselves away from the problem. So
the
maybe
karst
that area
conditions.
has more fractures than the rest of the county.
With all of the information and things, I think, we talked about holding accountability for some of this to the people that are generating the issues, and these are all things that we need to work on for the future and ways that we can do that. So those are things that we'll probably be tasked with on our committee. Just one more. You had used an acronym, BMP. I just want to make sure that the people in the room know what that means,
That means best management practices.
okay? And that has to do with reporting practices and how,
It's really just the best that we have available, you
Okay.
know.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I think,
Thank you, Supervisor Counter. Are there any other questions? Supervisor Barklow?
Thank you, Chair Fiedler. Sorry, one more question. So let's say we put into practice crop rotations that don't, require as much nitrogen, require as much fertilizer. What is the turnaround time for reversing those trends?
That is that's the $20,000 question. That'd be an old game show with the $20,000, but there's always a lag time. I believe that the lag time is less in a karst topography than it is in a traditional layered, percolation real slow. When we tried to use a model to figure that out, the model didn't work very well because of the karst. And so, there's not a good model for that. And so I really can't say, but I do say that we have watched weather and we've watched these samples change, and it's can sometimes be predictable. And so I think it's more responsive than we think. So I think once we make the changes, we hope to, with what the application we'd like to put in to fund this plan when we're done with it, we'd like to put monitoring in place that we can track our progress. So then we know we did it, Yeah.
Supervisor Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me? Am I on here? All right. Tim, that's a great report. Thank you. I'm wondering if you could describe what happens to the product that comes out of the septic systems when that gets pumped. Where does that go within the county? And when we build more and more residential areas in the townships, where's that product going?
So, yeah, all rural septage is land applied. To my knowledge, it doesn't leave the county. It's all applied on by permit. And I acquired all that data once and had a huge amount of data to deal with. But I learned a lot from that process. It's all land applied. Generally, the pumpers avoid farmland, actual farmed land. Usually they apply it on grassland. But it's all land applied in the county. So that's, there's products in there that have to be thought about. Everything that goes in the waste system.
So that 1% includes all that. Could that go up then? We're building more and more houses out in the township.
Yes. Yeah, I have that in the calculation where the worst case scenario, I had more homes and more of the other things. I just, basically
So
packed it up.
we're talking about medical people past the, like metformin and other drugs that just don't disperse.
Yeah, and we did some testing on that we did on a different thing. I didn't really want to get into all that, but we wanted to know if our land use standards are protecting us. And, as far as we can tell, they are. Septage, the indicators that we get did increase when you get into septic, high density areas, but the density that we have, they were all still very low. But there are losses. Yep.
Thanks. Most people don't know what's happening with that stuff. It's good to hear that. But
It's all going on the ground.
Oof. Thank you.
Does any other supervisor seek recognition? Seeing none, we'll move to our public comment portion of the agenda. And I'll just say by way of introduction, welcome everybody. For those of you who have not been here, we have a long tradition in St. Croix County of having public comment at all our board meetings. We try to accommodate everybody as much as we can. And simultaneously, we ask everybody if you could keep in mind that you've all got meetings. Time is precious. We've got a big agenda with many items on it tonight. We want to hear from you. That's our responsibility. But we also ask everybody to be civil in their comments. And keep in mind, the supervisors are not sitting up here as dummies, but our rules do not permit us to respond to any public comment. So you'll make a public comment, we'll just sit here. And that's just the way it is. That's what our rules say. When we get to an agenda item on the business, then the supervisors will talk and talk and talk, believe me. But when you make your public comment, we cannot respond. To try to make this as efficient as possible, I'm going to do this tonight. I'm going to ask if anybody is here who would like to comment on something other than Lake Malilu-related issues. If you would like to come to the podium, we'd be happy to entertain your comments first, and then we'll turn to the Lake Malilu comments. Is there anybody who would like to speak on any topic other than Lake Malilu? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. There's somebody in the back. Please come forward and give your name and address, please.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Shelley Fox, and you said my address? Hudson, Wisconsin. I thought I would be able to interrupt this regularly scheduled program, but I'll start it off. My name is Shelley Fox. I am the Chief Deputy at the Clerk of Court's office and a candidate for St. Croix County Clerk of Court. A quick snapshot of what our office does. We manage approximately 10,000 cases each year across all case types, collect more than $5 million annually, qualify 2,500 jurors, and maintain the court records that allow the public to access the case information online. I joined the Clerk of Court office in October of 2007. Since then, I have served in many roles, trained, cross-trained, and had the privilege of being mentored by retired Clerk of Court Christy Severson. I am running because I truly enjoy this work. I believe I have the experience, the knowledge, and dedication to continue serving St. Croix County, the Clerk of Courts, and our court system. And I'll just stop with that. You have a busy night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Are there any other comments on anything but Lake Malibu? Seeing none, we'll turn to that topic. And I'll just reemphasize, we'll be giving 2 minutes per person. We've heard from a lot of people at the committees before and at the board before on this topic. I know the supervisors generally have had a lot of phone calls and received a lot of emails. They're pretty well informed on the topic. So we would just ask to make your comments, make them as direct as you would like, but we do have a 2-minute limit on those. And if any group would like to maybe select a spokesperson for a group of speakers who you don't care to get up at the podium, we would be more than happy to have a person indicate they're representing 5 or 6 different people. That anything is really fair here. We are trying to be as democratic as we possibly can. And so I'm going to call on the first. I've got a packet full of people here who've registered to speak. I'm going to call on the first one there. And that is somebody we've heard from in the past. But again, please state your name and your city. And I'm calling on Celeste Coble.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Celeste Cobrel. Our family has had our home on Strawberry Drive in the town of Hudson on the northeast shore of Lake Malilu for 33 years, since 1993. And throughout these years, my spouse and I have been members of the Lake Malibu Association. My spouse has been a former officer and director, but we're not here speaking for the Lake Malibu Association. I'm here, and he will be speaking as longtime homeowners on the lake. And we are asking that you vote yes on the resolution to rescind the county's conditional permission for the application to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the drawdown that the Lake Malibu Association is requesting. So we ask that you vote yes and adopt the resolution to rescind. We do that because just as you heard from Tim Stieber earlier today about the county's work to protect groundwater quality, St. Croix County has done a great deal of work under Tim Stieber's direction as the Land and Water Conservation Administrator to protect the water quality of the St. Croix River and the Lake St. Croix portion of it that goes from Stillwater down to Prescott. Since 2013, St. Croix County alone has implemented 373 conservation contracts at a cost of $4.4 million of our taxpayer dollars to make only partial progress toward the phosphorus reduction goals for the Lake St. Croix portion of the river. And those goals were set in the 2012 TMDL plan, which stands for Total Maximum Daily Load, which was approved by the US EPA with the purpose of reducing excess phosphorus loading in the St. Croix River. Now, we ask that you rescind because you shouldn't leave it up to the DNR to maybe permit flushing down the river, all of that county work, and a large portion of our taxpayer dollars. It's fiscally irresponsible, and you have local authority and responsibility to protect our resources here and to save our taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be pretty good about closing off people at the 2-minute mark. If they want to finish the sentence, we'll permit that, but we're pretty tight about the 2 minutes, so we'll do that from the chair. Thank you. Okay, our next person I'm going to call is John Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is John Thomas. Sherry and I live at 181 West Canyon Drive in Hudson, about 2 miles from the lake. We have a history on the lake, though, and feel very strongly that the study for the lake fixing the problem that the DNR created, the study should continue. The legislature and the governor gave the Lake Association money to look at a solution. The association hired Stantec, a global, highly recognized environmental firm that was recommended by the DNR. And to date, we've spent about $250,000 of your money, state of Wisconsin, and looking at this issue. There will be a public hearing scheduled for late October, I understand. No, late August. It will be at the high school, and the data that have been collected will be presented at that time. It would be a shame to not hear that, because the DNR, if you pull your approval, the DNR would not hold this hearing. So I urge you to table that resolution until after the hearing has been held. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. The next name I've got is Carolyn Fuchs.
Mr. Chairman and County Board, thank you for this time to be able to speak. I'm Carolyn Fuchs.
Be sure to speak into the mic, Carolyn.
I'm Callie Fuchs, and I live in Hudson. And I'm also a professional counselor, and I'm a licensed psychologist in Minnesota. And I'm telling you that not because it further this conversation, but to tell you how I think. So Bud and I were out at the state park this weekend, and there was algae in the state park already. I know there's algae in Willow River, and clearly on Lake Malibu, there's a lot of algae. And we have a problem with that. But what I would like you to do is to vote yes on rescinding the conditional approval of the drawdown and create a work study group. What I've learned from being a therapist is when people talk to each other and they listen to each other and they try to figure out how to do something and solve their own problems, they can do it. I watched it over and over and over, and I think we can do it in St. Croix County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn. Our next speaker will be Bud Fuchs. I've got a feeling you might be related to the young lady who just spoke to us.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, please vote yes to rescind conditional approval to flush polluted bottom muck from Lake Malibu into the St. Croix River. This will be your last chance to rescind approval. The DNR is already processing the permit. The permit will be issued before you meet again unless you vote yes now. The DNR water program will issue the permit to get themselves off the hot seat in regard to this issue. They request to delay approval for more information as a strategy to gain approval by stalling. There is no need for more information. Please vote yes for the 100,000 county residents who love the St. Croix River for its aesthetic, recreational, and economic value. They constitute 99.92% of your constituents, in contrast to the 0.08% who live on Lake Malibu. Please vote yes to protect the improvements in water quality in the St. Croix River achieved by the excellent work of the county land and water program personnel through 373 clean water projects in the watershed over a period of 12 years at a cost of $4.4 million. These employees deserve our sincere thanks and gratitude. They do not deserve to have their work trashed and the dollars spent flushed away. Please vote yes to continue the commitment of past county boards to improve water quality in the St. Croix River. Please honor their vision of a clean St. Croix River as described in county comprehensive plans, which constitute official county policy. I second my wife's interest in having a clean water work group of all stakeholders. Let's all work in a cooperative partnership to address water quality issues. I think we can do that. I think that's highly doable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuchs, and thank everybody for staying within that 2-minute time limit. Our next speaker will be John Gostovich.
My name is John Gostovich. I live on Lake Malibu in Hudson. And I'm coming here tonight to ask you to rescind, please, the county's approval of the Malibu drawdown request. The public trust doctrine of our state's constitution declares that the Willow River, Lake Malibu, and Lake St. Croix belong to all of us to preserve and protect. We hold these resources in common, like the air we breathe and the water we pump from our wells. We share an opportunity to work together to improve water quality, mitigate harms as best we can, and leave the natural world in better shape than we found it. We agree on this. You and your adopted land and water conservation policies, your comprehensive plan, your zoning definitions and distinctions, and conservation expenditures have worked to protect, preserve, and improve the public waters of this county. Jason and his staff have invested over $4.4 million to incentivize upstream best management practices to reduce phosphorus transport into the St. Croix River. This investment puts your policies into action and is an investment you are making for every one of us. Again, please rescind the approval. You have an opportunity to affirm your policies and avoid the waste and damage from dumping sediment and pollution downstream. We're all in this together. I think we can solve this problem together. And I don't think we need to kick the can down the road or, in this instance, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. Thank you very much.
John, thank you. And our next speaker will be Matt Poppleton. And forgive me if I'm butchering any of these
That's okay,
names.
you
You
got
can
it right.
correct it.
Good evening. My name is Matt Poppleton. I'm the Executive Director of Wild Rivers Conservancy of the St. Croix and Namakagon Riverway. Our mission is to inspire stewardship to forever ensure the rare ecological integrity of the St. Croix and Namakagon Riverway, and our office is based in Osceola. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask you to approve the resolution rescinding St. Croix County's authorization for the proposed 7.5-foot drawdown of Lake Malibu. Our concern comes down to 3 points. First, we do not believe the environmental impacts of this project are fully understood. Our written comments identify significant concerns with the assumptions used to estimate how much phosphorus would be released downstream. We understand that additional analysis is currently underway to evaluate those assumptions, but as of tonight, those results have not been finalized or confirmed. When science is uncertain and the potential impacts could be irreversible, the burden should be demonstrating that a project is safe before authorizing it, not after the damage is done. Second, Lake St. Croix is impaired by phosphorus, and St. Croix County was represented in the development of the TMDL, Total Maximum Daily Load, and implementation plan for it. The first 10-year plan to reduce phosphorus into Lake St. Croix, which has made progress in reducing phosphorus. If approved, this project could become the largest permitted point source phosphorus discharge to the St. Croix River on record. Phosphorus fuels harmful algal blooms, degrades fish habitat, reduces oxygen, threatens recreation, and diminishes one of the region's greatest natural assets. Third, this project risks undoing years of progress. As mentioned earlier, since 2013, St. Croix County's farmers, landowners, and conservation partners have invested more than $4.4 million implementing conservation practices to reduce phosphorus entering Lake St. Croix. I'll end there. With the final, just on behalf of Wild Rivers Conservancy, I would respectfully ask you to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Our next speaker will be Lori Harmon.
Hi, my name is Lori Harmon. I live in the town of Hudson. We're obviously a packed house here today to address a complicated yet surprisingly simple issue, the Lake Malibu drawdown. I'm here to advocate for natural resources in the St. Croix River Valley and its precious waterways. We're also here today in part because a small group of folks, I will call them the few, want to put their wants above the absolute health and safety needs of the many, the rest of us in St. Croix County and in the St. Croix County River Valley, including, of course, residents, tourists, and business owners. The proposed Lake Malibu drawdown may facilitate a more enjoyable recreational experience for the few in the Lake Malibu Association and their folks involved with that, but it will severely and possibly irreversibly damage the many needs of the many, and possibly of the many to have a healthy, safe ecosystem. Unfortunately, if you approve the drawdown, or if you allow the drawdown, it will load dangerous phosphorus, nitrates, arsenic, muck, sediments, and other garbage into our precious and protected waterways. Simply stated, I'm asking you to please vote yes to rescind the resolution and to maintain the integrity of our natural resources. It's something we all deserve. It's something we fought very hard to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harmon. Our next speaker will be Rebecca Wright.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Wright, and I live in the city of Hudson. I have lived in Hudson or North Hudson for the last 60 years, and so I'm familiar with the benefits that the St. Croix River brings to the area, both for individuals living here and as well as the tourism that it brings. I'm here to urge the county board to vote yes on the proposed resolution to rescind the conditional approval for the requested Lake Malibu drawdown. Experts have said that the proposed drawdown will flush not only the soil, but tons of phosphorus into the St. Croix River. Over the past several years, taxpayer money has been spent trying to mitigate the damage that phosphorus has already done to the river. So it doesn't make sense to spend money to clean up the river only to allow a drawdown that will dump tons more of the very pollutant we are trying to get rid of. Money should be spent trying to reduce the phosphorus from entering our streams and rivers in the first place, rather than to flush pollutants downstream to others. We don't want the St. Croix River to become our very own reflecting pool.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. Our next speaker will be Paul Wright.
My name is Paul Wright. I live here in the city of Hudson. I grew up in North Hudson and have lived in Hudson and North Hudson my whole life. What I find perplexing about this issue is the fact that you can't dump your garbage or throw any beer cans or pop cans or anything else like that in the St. Croix or any other public waters for that matter, and that's all well and good. But here we are discussing the possibility of flushing maybe tons of phosphorus into the St. Croix River, which is already endangered with phosphorus pollution. The St. Croix, as you all know, is a national gem. It's an asset to all of us in the community. It's a federally designated wild river, wild and scenic river. So I'm asking you to vote yes on this proposed resolution to rescind conditional approval and the requested drawdown of Lake Malilu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Our next speaker is Gretchen Whithune.
That was impressively accurate way to say my last name. Thank you. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I'm here as a homeowner, one of the few people here, it seems, that actually lives on Lake Malilu. In fact, we are one of the first houses where the lake opens from the headwaters, and our house sits on about 700 feet of shoreline on this lake. When we first looked at our home in 2014 and we walked onto the dock, we were stunned by the beauty of this lake. I grew up swimming here as a little kid growing up in North Hudson. And now, 8 years later, the lake is nothing like what it was. Our shoreline is covered with slime and growth, and the smell coming off the lake sometimes fills our whole house. It's a terrible state of affairs. And I urge all of you to listen to the science, the actual science that has been demonstrated and brought to you by the people who care about the lake and the St. Croix River, and do not rescind your request. I would love to know where all of the people asking you to rescind your request were over the last 8 years as Lake Malilu degraded year over year over year, and suddenly they're saying that they care about water quality. I ask you to please do not rescind your request, and please vote based on the science that's been put before you.
Thank you, Ms. Whithune. Our next speaker will be Shelley Fox. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Shelby Fox. We did that before, okay. Our next speaker will be, I believe, the president of the Lake Malibu Association, Jeff Lavers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Yes, I am president of the Lake Association. I'll speak not only on behalf of the Lake Association, but also as a homeowner on Lake Malibu. I live in North Hudson. We have had a recent vote of the association with over 100 members of the attendance that voted without one opposing vote to continue the efforts with the drawdown. And the answer is simple. This lake is in peril. Since the breach of the dam that happened in 2015, this lake continues to deteriorate. This is a public lake. This is the fourth largest body of water in St. Croix County. This is your lake. This is not a private lake. This is not a lake association matter. This is a public body of water. There are thousands of people who visit this lake every year, and much of them are commenting on the deterioration of this lake. Drawdowns are a natural occurrence of controlled drawdowns in particular of impounded lakes. They happen all the time. This lake has had several drawdowns. We have data that we wish to present in the public hearing that is going to take place by the DNR in early to mid-August to show that the amount of materials that are being distributed to you in terms of phosphorus loading and other things are simply not science-based. We're the only ones who have commissioned to do core sampling. We're the only ones who have taken samples of the materials in the lake. We're the only ones who are presenting the data. The other is all either from textbooks, AI, or speculation. There is no other data being presented that has core sampling from the lake. We will present that. We ask respectfully, do not rescind, do not put forth your rescind. We ask you to vote no. We'd like to have this public hearing. An informed decision is the right decision. We ask you, get the information. Please attend the forum, listen to the facts, listen to the data. Ignore the hyperbole that you're hearing, and please, please, please help your public lake. Thank you.
Chair Fiedler?
I was just going to say,
Point of order.
thank you, Mr. Lavers. I think I'm going to anticipate the comment. What we let a couple of points of applause go a little bit earlier. They were modest, but we try not to have applause following the speakers. And so I would ask the folks to not do that if you can, please. I know this is a very emotional topic, and we've got some great speakers who deserve applause, but we try not to have applause following the speakers. So thank you if you'll follow that. Does that follow, Supervisor Rice? Okay, our next speaker is Linda Robertson. Okay, so our next speaker then would be Warren Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to present my views this evening. Up front, I'll say that I'm a 100% supporter of clean water in the St. Croix and Lake Malibu. I grew up in Afton. I know what a beautiful river that can be. I also lived 23 years on Lake Malibu, and I've been involved in every aspect of improving that lake since we moved there. Lake Malibu is a tough problem. It's a seriously impaired tributary to the St. Croix, and if we don't fix it, the potential damage to the St. Croix only remains and grows. So several potential solutions to the damage done by the Little Falls dam breaches have been proposed and studied and rejected for various reasons. The current proposal to study a drawdown came out of a meeting in 2024 with county staff, DNR, Lake Malibu Association, and consultants all present. Since then, a ton of work has been done to determine the pluses and minuses of a drawdown. Thousands of data points and samples have been professionally collected under the guidance of environmental consulting experts and DNR specialists. Since early June, when the DNR received a completed request from all 4 owning municipalities, they began studying the data and performing the needed analysis of impacts on fish and wildlife, vegetation, and flows of phosphorus and sediment to the St. Croix. When that analysis is complete and a public forum is held in August, county board members will have the best available expert views of what a drawdown will do. After that, an informed decision on whether to proceed with a drawdown can be made. If you decide tonight to rescind approval, then all that work stops. There will be no more study, there will be no public forum, and you won't have the opportunity to hear the expert opinion and the science behind this. So I trust you prefer to make informed decisions based on sound science and constructive public input. So I respectfully request that you do not pass the resolution to rescind the county's signature and allow the information gathering process to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Our next speaker will be Chris Salentine. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Chris Salentine, and I live on Lake Malibu. We moved to Lake Malibu from the city of Hudson. About 2014 we moved. So we've been there about 12 years. And my husband used to take our boys when we lived in the city of Hudson, and they did a lot of recreational activities on the lake and things like that. So when we started thinking about buying a cabin, we're like, well, why don't we buy close to home? So we moved to Lake Malibu, and we've just really enjoyed the lake. When we moved in, our dock, the water on our lake was so pristine. There was so much fishing, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, once in a while the crappies down by the dam and stuff like that. But now there has been hardly any good fishing down in the lake. I mean, you used to see so many fishermen out on our lake, and there's not enough oxygen for the fish to breathe in the lake, and so there is no fish on the lake anymore. It is infested with carp, which I think they love the sediment in the lake, so they're in there, and we've done some work with that, but I know there's still a lot of carp on the lake. But my main point is, I know we all care. I mean, we live in St. Croix County. We care about the lake. We care about the St. Croix River. But I think that Lake Malibu is a strong thing for recreation, for kayakers. There's so many boats at the St. Croix River, but for people that want to get out on their kayak, their paddle boards, and just enjoy nature, Lake Malibu is a valuable asset to our county, and that has to be considered. And also, we live on Strawberry Point. There's a lot of people here in our group from Strawberry Point tonight, and there's so much sediment. My time is running out. There's so much sediment in where it came down from the lake. We can stand in the lake, and we were down 12 inches of muck. It's affecting our lifts and just different things for our pontoons, but it's affecting so many things in the lake. So please consider, vote no, do not rescind the amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Allentine. And again, we really appreciate all the very thoughtful comments. They've been very good, very civil, and you've all kept within the time limits substantially, and we appreciate that. So our next speaker is Kim Dupre. And she's speaking on behalf of Sue Curtis, who happens to be out of town.
And Sue Curtis is the president of St. Croix Cures, and I'm the co-vice president. Sue lives in the town of St. Joe. I've lived in this watershed for nearly 30 years, most of the time in Emerald, in the Willow River watershed. And I've been working on water quality issues in the Willow River watershed for 26 years. So there have been people around working on this. Wisconsin continues to see an increasing number of impaired waters identified under the federal Clean Water Act. Lake St. Croix River, Lake Malibu, Willow River, 10 Mile Creek, East and West Twin Lakes, Mary Park Beach and New Richmond Flowage, O'Galley River, and Pine Lake in Baldwin. With this context in mind, Cures would respectfully ask you to support the resolution to rescind St. Croix County's approval of the proposed drawdown. Our concerns, you've heard many already this evening, about the phosphorus, about the money already spent, about the adverse effects, about the largest point source discharge of a regulated pollutant into the St. Croix River. You heard earlier from Tim Stieber about some of the best management practices. Cures would support long-term watershed improvements, such as wetland restoration and protection, stream bank stabilization, low erosion control, ag conservation practices, expanded cover crops, green infrastructure, stormwater infiltration products, et cetera, et cetera. We all agree that we love this place. That's why we're here. And Cures would enthusiastically participate in a county-led water quality collaborative that brings leaders together, and working together, we can develop strategies that would help improve this watershed for all. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Deb Beyer.
Thank you, County Board Chair, and all of the County Board Supervisors. If you can hear me, here I'll talk into the microphone a little bit better. Thank you I would like to encourage you to support the resolution to rescind the authorization of the Lake Malilu drawdown. This would actually be in alignment with what the data indicate, contrary to what you've heard from a few others. This would be in alignment with the investments already made in watershed improvements and numerous efforts by public agencies, citizen groups, as well as individuals, landowners all across the watershed, working for water quality in Lake Malilu as well as the St. Croix River. This would be an opportunity to springboard into broader water quality improvements that are watershed based, as you heard earlier from Tim Stieber from the Land and Water Conservation Department. Nitrate loads are increasing in drinking water, groundwater. A lot of those same best management practices he alluded to that would help that situation are the same types of things that would really help the Willow River watershed, which feeds into Lake Malilu, which obviously feeds into the St. Croix River. So it could be a win-win for everybody if there was collaboration that resulted from this controversy. And so it would be a broader solution for water quality, not only on the drinking water front, as well as our surface water in our rivers and Lake Malilu. Thank you very much for voting, hopefully, to rescind the authorization for the drawdown.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Our next speaker is, oh boy, I'm going to give it a shot here. Josie Gilbert? Ms. Gilbert? I may have gotten the first name wrong. If I did, I apologize.
My hands were wiggly today, so I apologize. My name is Susie Gilbert. I live at 712 Riverside Drive in North Hudson. I've been on Lake Malilu since 1993. Prior to that, I was on the St. Croix for 10 years. My family and I spent 2 weeks every year on St. Croix in our houseboat. I'm familiar with the St. Croix, but I'm even more familiar with Lake Malilu. And I'm going to speak from the heart. I've got notes, but things have already been said, and I don't want to repeat it. On March 24th, 2019, 3,200 cubic feet of water per second came down that Willow River watershed because of the construction breach. We were on the phone with the DNR, with lake residents, and we got through that. The DNR had mentioned that they had cleaned it up, but they didn't clean up what was left of the silt. That silt went into the St. Croix, so did the phosphorus, and so did the nitrates. I've been working with St. Croix County. I worked with Kyle Kulo, with Evan, with others on a water network that included the DNR and a representative from Lake Malilu. That thing lost funding after a year. So when we talk about collaboration, efforts have been tried, but they haven't been successful. The right thing to do today is to make sure that we give the DNR the opportunity to present the information that's available. We've heard from others that don't have the facts. We need to listen to the facts. And the Lake Malilu Association and our neighbors will listen to those facts and listen to what the DNR has to say. And so we're willing to do that and take next steps if necessary. But we need everybody to listen to those facts.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Appreciate
I
your
thank
comments.
you for your time.
Absolutely. Our next speaker is Paul Gravick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Paul Gavick, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of, I've been living on Lake Malilu for over 30 years, and I've raised my family, 3 kids, grew up there hunting, fishing, water skiing, and I wanted to make the point that it's a public water that we've really put a lot of time and effort into, even with the Rotary Club, we've put, helped put the fishing docks in. With the Lake Association, I've been very involved with that, helping bring the public into this. And even my kids brought their teachers out there fishing and hunting. So, I mean, it's kind of a generational thing, and now my grandkids are coming to visit. And of course, as everybody else is saying, the quality has gone down after this breach. And what I wanted to, I'd like to make sure that you hear the forum and the facts that we've gotten from the engineering firm and the DNR, and at least listen to that, because I'm afraid there's a lot of misinformation out there that could disrupt this drawdown. It's a relatively inexpensive way to help improve the quality in a short period, and it really doesn't dump that much. I know you're hearing tons of material down. They're talking about dropping it 3 or 4 inches a day. So it's very little water at a time. And the city is already, they've, in the last year alone, they've made some mistakes at the dam and dropped it down 18, 24 inches at a crack in one day. And that's a lot worse than what we'd be doing. So I'd just like you to vote no on rescinding this. I want to make sure you hear the comments from the DNR and Stantec before before voting on the actual drawdown. So give us a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Gavick. Appreciate your comments. Mr. Tim Huntley.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Tim Huntley. I live on the lake at Boulder Point Drive. I grew up on the lake, and I currently reside on the lake with my wife, raising a family. So basically, for the last 50 years, I've been actively using the lake, and it's never been worse right now. The status is not healthy, and we need your help. And I have learned through research here these last few years that this is a very complex issue. And, with the internet and media, it has made it even more challenging. There's been a lot of misrepresentations out there, and it's hard to cipher what's real and what's not real. And allowing the DNR public hearing to happen will help all parties involved to get the facts to make an informed decision. I guess I'd like to end here with an analogy. Since we are in a government center, a jury hears all evidence before reaching a verdict. An informed and fair decision on the drawdown will come from considering all relevant facts, comments, and concerns. The DNR public hearing will help provide this information and get the facts out so we can make relevant decisions. I respectfully request for you not to rescind the approval of the drawdown application at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huntley. We'll now hear from Lon Fea.
Hello, my name is Lon Fea. I live in the town of Hudson. My wife and I and our family have lived on Lake Malibu on the Willow River since 1998. Since the breach, the lake has gone steadily downhill. Everyone is saying the same things. There are tremendous problems with the lake, with the carp, with all of the things that are happening. What I am here to ask is to say that we're not asking you, I'm not asking you to vote yes for the drawdown. We've heard a lot of opinions here today, but that's all they are opinions. No one in this room, I would state that probably none of the board members are scientists steeped in the knowledge and have the depth of learning to understand and make a good decision on this issue. What we are asking is for you to not vote yes for the drawdown today, but do not rescind your signature from the drawdown application. All we are asking is that you stay the course, keep your signature on the application, allow the public hearing to continue so the facts from the scientists, from the people that understand these issues, from the DNR can present the facts so that the legal people, the county, the city, the township can then make an informed decision, okay, and make the right decision for all the citizens of St. Croix County. The fact is, if you vote yes and rescind your decision, this entire process stops. The hearing will not happen, and the facts will not be presented. Again, I respectfully ask you to not rescind your signature on the DNR application and allow the public hearing to occur. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Faya. Before I call on the next speaker, Virginia Drath, if you'd like to come to the podium, please come to the podium. Hopefully I got that name right. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, we have another room upstairs where people are at, and we'll give them a moment to come down, and she'll be the next speaker after that. But I'll ask, is Jim Green in the audience? Jim Green? Perhaps he's upstairs also. Jim, if you're upstairs and hear us, please come down as well. How about Anna Scharfenberg? Anna Scharfenberg. Same thing for Anna. If you're up there, please come down. You'll be in line. Michelle Drevnik. Michelle is with us, and we'll ask you to come to the podium. Thank you, Michelle. And I'll say we've got, assuming that the other folks I called off and the names I've got in my hand are here, we've got about 10 more speakers tonight, so we'll hear from a number of other good speakers, but we're getting close. Michelle, it's all yours.
Hi, I would just like to say that I would like to be able to go to that meeting with the DNR to hear all the facts that have been figured out by all of these scientists. And so don't vote yes. Just take your time, let this other information be presented, and after that you can have another chance to vote. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And so now I'll just ask, I think I see Virginia in the audience. Virginia, if you'd like to come to the podium, you're next, and then we'll be followed by Jim Green if he's here, and Ms. Schaffenberg if she is here. So Virginia Drath.
Thank you, Council. My name is Virginia Drath. I live at 1541 County Road, Emerald, the east side of St. Croix County. I live within 3 miles of Carr Creek, Dry Run Creek, Hudson Creek, and the Willow River in the South Fork of the Willow River watershed. I like to say creek instead of creek. I like that. I'm old. I'm an old farmer. I have seen both live and dead fishes during 2 different manure spills, and in Hutton Creek, puffs of what looked like root beer floats and smelling of manure rapidly moving in the stream to join the Willow. First in New Richmond, where people can't or won't swim in Mary Lake because of impaired waters. The ducks get blamed for that. There are farmers who are working on their own or with professional folks preventing further phosphorus and sediment releases. If you would like a driving tour of some of the farms implementing some of these management practices in using waterways and other methods to prevent runoff, you can contact me or Becky Brothel. Homeowners along the Willow watershed have some responsibility in preventing nutrients going into the Willow watershed. It's one thing to go to the St. Croix River beach for a swim and accidentally piddle in the water, which is a public health issue. But that doesn't even come close to dumping thousands of pounds of phosphorus and sediment into the already impaired St. Croix River. Thank you. I would encourage you to vote for the rescind the drawdown. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. And I'm going to break our rules ever so slightly and just say that Virginia and I served on the Council on Aging and Disabilities together for several years. And she was a great member of that, and she surely looked out for our members of our county that are aging and have disabilities. So Virginia, thank you for all that. Our next speaker is Jim Green, if Jim is here. If Jim is not here, we will turn to Ann Scharfenberg. Ann is here.
Good evening. My name is Ann Scharfenberg. I live in the town of Hudson. My family and I have been residents of Hudson community since 1994. We've enjoyed the wonderful waterways of the Willow River, Lake Malilu, and the St. Croix River in the time we lived here and raised our family. And now our grandchildren are coming around and enjoying it as well. I'm here to voice my opposition to the proposed drawdown of Lake Malilu and share my concerns. Specifically, it will undermine the investments of time and money that have spent on improving water quality in the St. Croix River Basin. It sets a wrong precedent for the St. Croix River, where the project will be the largest permitted point source phosphorus discharge to the St. Croix River on record. And also I'm concerned Lake Malilu obviously is distressed, and just dumping all that into the St. Croix River will have a seriously negative impact on the larger waterways. So I'm encouraging you to vote yes and approve the resolution to rescind the conditional approval letter to draw down Lake Malilu. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Linda Hendricks from New Richmond, Wisconsin. I'm asking you to please consider rescinding the approval of the drawdown of Lake Malilu. It's been brought to my attention that taxpayers have already spent $4.4 million in just the last 12 years to decrease phosphorus pollution in the St. Croix River. I've also learned that a drawdown of 7.5 feet would likely send thousands of pounds of phosphorus downriver and greatly contaminate not only the St. Croix and Lake St. Croix, but also the entire watershed, which includes the Mississippi River down to the Gulf. As a wildlife advocate, I'm not only concerned with how this drawdown could impact fish, mussels, and other wildlife at the lake and beyond, but also the impacts on manatees, sea turtles, and wildlife in the Gulf. We need to address the causes of nitrate and phosphorus pollution in the entire watershed. The Alliance for the Great Lakes did an excellent study on water issues in Wisconsin. The study notes that excess fertilizer usage, manure spreading from CAFOs, and poor farming practices all contribute to issues with clean drinking water and excess phosphorus buildup in our soils, lakes, rivers, and streams. I suggest a study group of all interested parties take a good hard look at the causes of the problems and make decisions based on sound science, not emotion. One thing no one wants to see are more beach closings due to toxic blue algae blooms and high E. coli readings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Douglas Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. My name is Douglas Jackson. I live on Riverside Drive, 1519 Riverside Drive North. Been there 11 years now, right on the lake. I am a member of the Lake Malilu Association, which I'm very proud of this association. They have been diligently working toward good ends. I'm asking you to vote no to rescind. Why? Well, first, I appreciate being heard. All of us appreciate being heard, so thank you for that. Lake Malilu is in trouble. I sent an email a couple days ago, and my wife did too. And in my email, I attached half a dozen photos. I urge you to look at those photos and ask yourself if doing nothing is the answer or procrastinating. So I'm asking that we just get all the facts on the table and be heard. There's no harm in waiting to hear what Stantec and the DNR have to say about all of this, and letting the facts decide. So I'm saying please hold off on the rescind, let the facts go. I believe somebody's wrong and somebody's right about all this lake business. And we'll find out if we hear all the facts. But if we don't hear all the facts, we'll just think that was one polarizing thing and it's going to go all into the toilet if we're not careful and we don't really let the information be heard. So let the science, current science, not some spin. I believe, I'm making a strong statement next year, I believe you've been hearing a lot of spin from somebody who wants us to say, yes, rescind. But that spin is very dangerous and not helpful to what we're all trying to get done here. So Lake Malibu was recommended, the association was recommended by the DNR to hire Stantec, a world-renowned scientific company. There is no scientist in the room tonight that I'm aware of that could hold a candle to what they have pulled together and suggested that we do and work forward with. We
Mr.
hear
Jackson,
anecdotal
if you
things
could wrap
like,
it up, that would be great. You've got, I know the time goes quickly, but if
I'll
you could
finish
wrap
my
it up, that'd be
sentence.
great.
We know that there's anecdotal things said like 2,000 pounds or tons of stuff's going to flow into the lake if we do this, or into the river if we do this. That's anecdotal. That's not fact. That's not science. That's just people screaming the sky is falling. Thank you for
Thank you,
hearing
Mr. Jackson. Next speaker is Chris Hannaford. Ms. Hannaford, or Mr. Hannaford. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it, Mr. Hannaford. Our next speaker will be Emily Janish. Welcome.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Emily Janish. I am a resident of Lake Malibu. I do sit on the board for the association, but again, I'm here to speak for myself and my family tonight. There's been a lot of scripts read here tonight. There's a lot of information and sentences that sound identical to what we've been hearing tonight. And I have continued concern over the fact that we have not allowed the opportunity for people to listen to the facts and the evidence that will hopefully be able to be presented at the public hearing that the DNR will be hosting for us. A couple things that I want to remind everybody of. 20 to 25% of the drawdown that we're proposing already happened a few weeks ago on accident because the city's dam continues to malfunction. That happened within a 12-hour time frame. That water went rushing out significantly faster than what we're proposing this drawdown does. Now, I've not seen a single person. I've not seen, any of the groups that have come up and talked that they are looking out for our waterways talk about that, any concerns related to that. I've not seen any of them conduct studies on that. I've not seen anybody show up and go out on the lake or look at the dam, or take samples, or do anything about that. All I've seen people do is send out information and show up to meetings like this. And I don't necessarily agree with that approach because I think it really doesn't demonstrate that you actually care about what's going on. And I have pictures of that from what happened on my shoreline. So water flows over this dam every single day into the St. Croix River. At the last meeting we had here, Wild River Conservancy said that they have seen improvements happening on the St. Croix River and in Lake St. Croix Beach. Now, the dam has malfunctioned multiple times in the last year, and the water is still improving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dylan Surer.
Okay, I just wrote this on my phone out of anger. Hi, I'm Dylan Sawyer, and I live on the lake. So I'm gonna go fast. The individuals against the drawdown of the lake are embarrassingly misinformed. Unfortunately, as you've seen tonight, They have good outreach skills to spread their feelings. They don't want more testing, as they said. Their minds were made up a long time ago, even after further testing has been done, and they will not accept qualified professional facts over their feelings. Some individuals have pushed their agenda on others by being dishonest. Also clearly wrote some of their speeches, since some were quite identical. I heard 4.4 million many times. The quote-unquote professional against the drawdown that's here tonight has been using old textbooks and AI. They don't have a PhD in sediment like the people that we have working for us, okay? You have to be smart enough, all of you, to understand the opposition clearly. Half of them, I don't think they've ever been on the lake. I don't know if they can find it, but I'm on the lake every day. I spend all my time. I can't fish anymore. There's no more fish to catch. It's horrible. Not only that, I wouldn't sign my name to do anything that would negatively impact other people, okay? I'm not selfish. This isn't something for the few that's gonna harm others, like others. Somebody said something about dumping the sediment, the sludge, whatever he said. That's wrong. We never said that's happening. That's not happening. You guys, we need this done for everyone, not just a few, and it would be absolutely embarrassing for any of you here right now to not see that what they're spewing to you tonight. They got together clearly and are not telling the truth. You need to allow actual qualified professionals to do their work and further inform everyone. It would be so embarrassing for you to not see through what's going on. You need to allow this to go on.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer.
Sorry, I just fixed our chime.
Our next speaker is Mr. Bruce Wenger. Bruce Wenger, W-E-N-G-E-R.
I'm Bruce Wenger. I live on Lake Malibu. I've lived on Lake Malibu for 28 years. I've noticed that the vast majority of people that are opposed to the drawdown don't live on Lake Malibu. The vast majority of people that want the drawdown live on Lake Malibu. I think you should take that into consideration. I saw a lot of the people that are in favor of the drawdown are relying on the science. We need to hear from Stantec. We need to hear from the DNR. We won't if you don't allow the next meeting to go forward. So please allow the next meeting to go forward and don't listen to these people that don't live on the lake trying to stop something that's going to improve the lake. One other thing is all the water in Lake Malibu is going to end up in the St. Croix anyway. I have lived through the last two drawdowns. I was here in the drawdown of 1999. I was here in the drawdown of 2005. The water fills Lake Malibu at the rate of about a foot a day. If you draw down 7 feet, all that water will be replaced in a week. So if they let it go in. So allow this to go forward and don't listen to the people that are trying to stop the drawdown.
Thank you, Mr. Wenger. Our last speaker that I've got a piece of paper for is Mr. Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Davis, and I live on the lake. And I would like to argue that this isn't a either or, either do a drawdown or do the upstream work. It needs to be an and. The upstream work is it's essential. We're not going to win if we don't win upstream. Okay, I will be the first one to agree to that. But that's a 30 to 50-year plan. Right now, we've got a lake that's dying. Okay, we're talking about doing a drawdown. Every day, water goes over the top of the dam. Every day. And it takes a certain amount of phosphate with it. We do a drawdown, yes. For the whatever time we lower 7 feet, it'll take more phosphate. Next spring, when we fill the lake back up, no water goes over the dam. And all that phosphate that would have gone over stays in the lake. Net regular, zero change to St. Croix. Okay, I'm not an environmental scientist, but I do understand how math works. Okay, if you add a little bit in front, take away a little bit in the back, you still end up at zero. Okay, so again, do the science, listen to the presentation. You're voting on an application, not whether or not we do the drawdown. You're voting on whether or not we can get the facts, listen to the facts. Once the facts are out, you can say yes, or we pull our approval. But if you don't wait and do the facts, you know, this is all, we'll be back here next year doing the same damn thing. So the lake is dying. When Malibu dies, all that stuff flows over the dam into St. Croix. So fix Malibu, help fix St. Croix, fix upstream. All of it needs to be done. But Malibu is in peril because of the dam failure. It is in critical state right now, what we would used to call extremis. If you don't do something, it's just gonna, you're gonna lose it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. That completes the hand-ins for requests for public comment. Is there anybody else who would like to give public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comment portion of the meeting. And I'll just give you folks a heads up. What we're going to do now is we're going to call on our county administrator for his monthly report. Then we're going to take a recess, and then we begin our business agenda. I think the first item on the agenda will go fairly quickly, so the Lake Malibu topic will probably come up, I'm just going to guess a little bit, in about 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to call on our county administrator to give his report at this point.
Yeah, the May financials are in the packet if you have any questions on those. Two things I wanted to touch on, though. Reminder that Thursday Committee of the Whole meeting, we're going to be going over our capital projects. We'll be looking at projects for the next 5 years. And the two big ones in there are the jail project and then a communications package for our 911 center. So we'll be reviewing those projects. That's a big step in the capital project planning process where we get your input on which ones are going to move forward to a final version. And then department heads are working on their operating budgets. You'll see those later in the summer. You'll get to see the first draft of those at your September standing committee meetings. Then also Thursday, community development is meeting that evening. And I just wanted to clarify what they're reviewing. So they're reviewing a first draft of Chapter 15 amendments that have conditional use permit changes. They have a moratorium on data centers in there. That's just the first draft to make sure that staff has what the committee is looking for. If that is what you want, we'll then publish for a public hearing, which will be held in August, which will then take public testimony on those changes to Chapter 15, including the moratorium. And that would go then to the September County Board. So that's the timeline of where that process is at. Otherwise, are there any other questions that you have on the financials? Everything's on track, so I didn't expect any. Thank you.
Seeing no questions for the county administrator, I'll make just two very quick comments. First, thank you to everybody who gave public comment tonight. It was eloquent, it was thoughtful, it was heartfelt, and you all stayed within the time limits. We really appreciate that, and there were very, very thoughtful comments made by all. I just want to reemphasize one thing the administrator said about, he referenced the data center issue. Again, the Committee on Development, Community Development Committee will basically just receive a report from staff on Thursday night. So those people who are interested in that, anybody can attend, of course, and share their thoughts, but really that's not the right time to do it, in my opinion, because they're just receiving something from the staff at that point. There's not really going to be a lot of activity. The critical date is the August Community Development meeting where they will hold a public hearing and they will vote on it at the committee level. And the next critical date is 1 September when that committee report will come to the full board. So we welcome comment and participation on that issue from those who want to do it, but I would encourage them to focus on August and September. With that, we're going to take about a 12-minute recess, and I'll say we'll reconvene at 10 minutes to 7, and we'll get underway with the business portion of the agenda. Okay, the board will reconvene and we'll be moving to our business agenda. The first item on the business agenda is a resolution regarding negotiations with Xcel Energy regarding the 10-mile Solar Creek project. And I'm going to call on the chairman of the Community Development Committee, which brought forward that resolution, if he would like to bring it before the board.
Thank you, Chair. We want to start out with the motion. Okay. So I would like to propose a motion on the resolution regarding negotiations with Xcel Energy regarding the 10 Miles Creek Solar Project. And we have the resolution. Okay.
Is there a second? Supervisor Rice seconds. We will now have discussion on the resolution dealing with the solar farms. And at this point, I'd like to call on our corporate counsel for a quick discussion of the purposes of this resolution.
Thank you, Chair. So this resolution is before the county board regarding the negotiations with Xcel Energy regarding a joint development agreement. Just a brief overview for the county board supervisors because some of this information occurred before you were elected. So November 4th, 2025, the county board approved a resolution to negotiate the joint development agreement with Xcel Energy. Indicated that it was hiring Attorney Roker and that the draft JDA shall be returned to the Community Development Committee for review and approval prior to execution. On November 5th, Attorney Roker and I met with Xcel Energy for approximately 4 hours to discuss the necessary changes. Attorney Roker then met with emergency management staff, highway commissioner, and Director Cheeseth to make sure she had correct provisions in the JDA. That draft was then brought back to Community Development Committee in February of 2026. The committee recommended additional changes, and so did citizens. Those changes were incorporated and then sent to Xcel Energy on April 10th. And I believe on May 20th, we received correspondence back from Xcel Energy saying it was no longer willing to negotiate with us regarding a JDA. And that letter from the attorneys for Xcel Energy is in the packet. So basically, the resolution is requesting or basically stating that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors recognizes that Xcel Energy is no longer willing to negotiate the terms of the joint development agreement with St. Croix County, but that the county remains open to recommence negotiations in the future.
Chairman Gunner, were you seeking recognition?
Just one expansion on the one of the things. What was? I don't know if you can bring up the issues that some of the examples that were through some of the court cases that brought Xcel Energy to make that type of decision.
Yes. So in speaking with Attorney Roker, she had indicated to me that at a recent Public Service Commission of Wisconsin hearing that the commissioners of the Public Service Commission indicated that JDAs were not really necessary and that, public entities like Xcel Energy or private developers just needed to comply with the statutes and not the requests of local governments. So I believe Attorney Roker indicated to me that around May 20th, not only did Xcel Energy send us this letter indicating they were no longer willing to negotiate, but that several private developers throughout the state also indicated that they were no longer willing to negotiate JDAs. So because of those comments made at that Public Service of Commission of Wisconsin's hearing, Attorney Roker did file a lawsuit on behalf of another county against the PSC, indicating that they didn't follow their own guidelines when granting a certificate of public need and necessity. So it seems like it might be a trend across the state that developers and public utilities like Xcel Energy are just no longer willing to negotiate JDAs because the PSC has indicated that they just need to follow the requirements that are set forth in the guidance that the PSC provides to them.
Is there any further discussion on the resolution regarding negotiations with Xcel Energy regarding the 10-mile Solar Creek project? Seeing none, we're prepared to vote.
I don't see it coming up on my screen. I have it now, thanks.
Supervisor Betchko? Supervisor Betchko, were you able to put the vote in?
Got it, thank you.
The results of this vote were 18-1 in favor of the resolution. The next item of business is number 2 on our agenda, the resolution directing staff to rescind the St. Croix County's authorization for application of the Lake Malibu drawdown. I'm going to make a brief parliamentary commentary, not on the merits of the issue, but on where we sit parliamentarily so the audience can appreciate it and the supervisors are clear on what we're going to do. At this point, we will be opening it up for a supervisor to make the main motion to approve that resolution that I just described. That motion needs a second. I'll then just restate that that motion is on the floor, and at that point, we go to discussion. At that point, any discussion can occur, or any amendment can occur. During the public comment period, we heard a number of different suggestions about different things. If we were to not act on this tonight, then the proper motion would be a motion to postpone to a date certain. That motion presumably would say 1st of September, which is our next meeting. That motion would do two things. It would, in theory, permit the hearing that was discussed would occur in August at some point, and that data would be in front of the supervisors when they voted in September. And the second thing I would bring to our attention, it was in everybody's packet, but our sister jurisdiction, the City of Hudson, has made a formal request to us to not act tonight because they intend to act in August themselves. So I just want to make sure everybody was aware that that formal request had been made to us, and that that would be the impact of a motion to postpone. We would be acknowledging the City of Hudson's request, and we would be delaying our vote till after the hearing had occurred that's been mentioned before. So at this point, I will entertain any, I'll turn toward the chairman, because normally we ask the chairman of the committee if he would like to make the resolution bringing it before us. So I'll turn to Chairman's counter and ask if you'd like to bring that resolution to our attention.
I'll start with, yes, thank you, Chair. Resolution directing staff to rescind the St. Croix County authorization for application of the Lake Malibu drawdown.
Is there a second? Supervisor Rice seconds. I'll just repeat that we are now considering the resolution directing staff to rescind the St. Croix County authorization for the application of the Lake Malibu drawdown, and we're in discussion. Are there any motions or discussion? Okay, I think I had about 3 hands go up simultaneously over here. I didn't see that side of the room, so I'm going to call first on Supervisor Carlson, then I'll call on Supervisor Barkle, then I'll call on Supervisor Hanson in that order. Oh, and Barkle passes to Carlson, so it'll be Carlson, Hanson in that order. And then if I miss somebody over here, we'll turn to somebody over here. Supervisor Carlson.
I would like to hear what the DNR says, so I want to make a motion to postpone the vote until the September meeting after the DNR hearing.
This requires a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Supervisor Barkalow? Betchko. Supervisor Betchko seconded, and that is now open to discussion. Now, the impact of this is that if this motion is adopted, that will cease discussion on the topic because that's what's adopted as the resolution for the evening. So the discussion is now open on the amendment of Supervisor Carlson. Discussion.
Well, I kind of already said it beforehand. I shouldn't have, but I want to hear what the DNR says. I want to respect what Hudson wants and and what the professional at Stantec say in their report before I make a decision. Because enough said.
Supervisor McIntosh, I'm sorry, didn't have my mic on.
looking at this, it looks like the drawdown may begin on September 1st. So if we don't talk about this till December, or until September, is that waiting too long to rescind, if that is ultimately the option that we feel is best after hearing everything else?
Can I call on Jason? Call on our community development director to answer that. But my impression is that we would not be losing our opportunity if we consider this on September 1st. But I'll call on Jason Chiseth, our community development director.
Correct. So the latest point that the drawdown can start is September 15th, because they want the drawdown level to be at the bottom level by October 1st. And so the drawdown rate is 5 inches per day, so that's kind of where it adds up to be the October 1st deadline.
Okay. Supervisor Hanson.
Please consider a couple of things regarding process. We have a committee system, and it's important that we respect our committee system. The Community Development Committee does excellent work, and they're thoughtful, and they had similar public comment during their committee meeting as we had tonight. They had voted 5-0 to rescind this measure. I want to respect the committee process. I also want to make this comment, and you can think it's inappropriate if you want, but I believe that it's wholly inappropriate for the county board chair to lead a vote by telling you what the outcome should be before a motion is made. That is wrong. That's not according to the rules. What we ought to be doing is respecting a committee process, and unless there's extenuating circumstances, allowing the committee work to stand. The committee chair has some thoughts. I know that he shared them with me, and if he wishes, we should give that the weight and the gravity that it deserves. The other thing that I would share is that, well, no, I'm going to wait. I'll wait on that.
Is anybody else seeking recognition? Supervisor Rice.
Just relative to the amendment, and it's really a question for Jason. So much of what we've heard tonight and in response to Supervisor Carlson's proposal, we've heard we have to hear from the DNR, right? We all want to hear from the DNR, hear from the scientists, right? My understanding is that you've had some communication with the regional director of the DNR, and so our decision when we back up and deal with the resolution will not affect the DNR's willingness to participate and engage with us. Is that your understanding, Jason?
Correct. So I had a phone call with James Yak, which is the Secretary Director for the northern part of Wisconsin last Thursday. And during that conversation, James was very aware of this drawdown application. And that if the county approves the withdrawal of their approval, and that the process would change because there's no longer a complete application before the DNR. So normally they have to hold a public hearing, that kind of stuff. So instead of going through that formal permit process, it would switch to more of an informational process. And what they were concerned about when they were communicating with the Lake Malibu Association is because there's 4 different dam owners, 4 municipalities, if you will, that they didn't want to take and have a meeting with the Lake Malibu Association, then one with the village, one with the city. They wanted to have one meeting and kind of get some feedback from the elected officials about what kind of concerns you have or what questions you want answers to, so that they could bring in the appropriate staff for that meeting. So that was their consideration for us, was to get it down to one meeting, let them know what kind of concerns, and then they would participate in an informational session, but it would not be the normal meeting that they would have about their permit. That being said, the city of Hudson was looking for modeling coming from Stantec, and so Stantec is being paid by the Lake Malibu Association to do that modeling. And so if the approval or the authorization from the county is withdrawn, I can't speak on behalf of the association on whether or not they would continue funding those efforts or if they would, suspend those and that at this time, so.
So to follow up on that, that is exactly the kind of modeling that the Community Development Committee was looking for. So while I have other comments relative to the specific resolution, we were looking for more information on impacts to the St. Croix, and the only information we were provided that we felt was reliable came from our own county staff, of which you heard speak tonight. So we can argue about which scientist is better, which data point is the most moving one, but I think we need to not postpone this discussion any longer. So that's my view.
Any further discussion? Supervisor?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just want to go back to what you said earlier about the start date. You said the latest they could start is September 15th, but after they have a meeting there is a meeting in August, assuming there's still a complete application, how early could they start?
I believe that request is September 1st. So, but the county's conditional approval, as staff, is kind of between a rock and a hard place because we had 3 other dam owners, 3 other municipal boards of elected officials that said, hey, we don't have enough information to be able to act on this at this time, and that they want more information. If we would have not given the authorization, it would have been basically an unelected bureaucrat acting, in his best interest. So trying to avoid that and trying to be willing to take more information, that's what our conditional approval to the Lake Malibu Association was. And in that email with that conditional letter, and that we did state in there, hey, if the new information comes out that the county board wants to take and withdraw their authorization, that we reserve the right to do so. And so, but with that conditional approval, we tried to summarize the 3 other conditions that the city of Hudson had, which was to have a public hearing, and that to take and study where does the water go after it leaves the Willow River through Lake Malibu into the St. Croix. Does that all just get deposited right in front of Hudson, or does it go all the way to Prescott? What does that look like? And then also Hudson was wondering about the increased flow options through the actual little spillway that you drive over on your way out to the main dam, and if that could improve water quality of North Bay by their parks. So those were the 3 that the city had. The village and the town were very much the same. We added 3 conditions to our county approval from hearing comments from the public and with our land and water staff expertise. And those were, 1, to consider alternative options that maybe would have a less impact on the St. Croix River. Then also, it was that if a drawdown was to go forward, that it would not start until after the monitoring of the St. Croix was completed for the year, because the water quality has been improving in the St. Croix due to a lot of factors. And so we didn't want to take and have a spike in our data and that would set back years of progress towards removing the St. Croix from the impaired water list. And then the last one is we've been talking a lot, and all of our elected officials are relying on modeling data to make these choices about drawdowns. And if the drawdown was to be approved, and that would be really good to get information, and that through a variety of testing measures before the drawdown, during the drawdown, and after the drawdown. So if there was a drawdown that was needed in the future, that we would have actual data to rely back on. So that was kind of the basis of our approval. More than what you probably asked for.
Supervisor Carlson.
Thank you. What you just said was helpful, and it's the first time I've heard it. All the other stuff I've heard is some stuff that might be anecdotal or not from one side, some stuff that might be anecdotal or not from the other side. I haven't heard from any professionals. So I would like to wait to make the decision. You just told me a whole lot of stuff I would like to ponder now. So I don't see the harm of waiting till afterwards. I don't Of course, I respect the admin committee, but that doesn't mean I have to rubber stamp what they say. I want to know myself too before I make a vote.
The motion on the floor is a motion to postpone the resolution until September 1st, 2026. So I just point out that's what we're considering, and I call on Supervisor Rowan.
So Jason, you've answered this twice, but I still don't quite have it.
Okay.
So humor me.
Yep.
Based on what we see on screen and your understanding about the DNR timetable, is there a scenario where if we were to wait on this decision and take a vote at the September 1st meeting, that the DNR could get ahead of us and begin to execute the drawdown ahead of us formally notifying them that we have changed our minds, if you will?
So I like to take this authorization request and put it into common terms that our department deals with every day. And so if you apply for a land use permit for building a new house and you're the owner of the permit, you have to sign the application for our staff to even consider that application in order for it to be a complete application. And that if we say, hey, you don't meet the setbacks, we can't issue the permit, and that it stops right there. We have to either modify our plans so that it complies, and that we just walk away and we don't build our house there anymore. If we go through and we get approval, and that from the community development department for a new house, for example, and we say, geez, I went to the bank and my mortgage is going to be a lot more than what I thought, we're not going to go ahead with that project. At any time, the St. Croix County Board and the other dam owners, if any one of them says, yeah, we're not comfortable with going ahead with this, we're going to withdraw, you can do that. And so, simply guidance from the county board that says, hey, we don't want this to start until after September 1st to staff. And if there was, any kind of conversation that was going on about it potentially starting, staff could always withdraw the approval on behalf of the county board.
Supervisor Fosterling.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, Jason, I have a question for you again. So just to clarify again, if the approval was made on September 1st to move ahead with the application, that doesn't necessarily mean the application is fulfilled in terms of the drawdown. There still has to be a review by the DNR to determine whether or not it's appropriate. Is that correct?
So I think we'll have those answers and that by the September 1 meeting. So I think a lot of that process will be flushed out. So, yep.
Okay, so you're saying that at this point we don't really know what the DNR thinks about the situation or how they would react to an application.
They have not indicated any way to me or our staff on the application. I can kind of relate to this because last year we went through the same authorization process for our Glen Hills Dam because we were considering doing some work out there to fix the gate. And as even staff, I felt like I was in the dark because I'm like, well, can I draw it down 3 feet? Can I draw it down 15 feet? Because we were getting various proposals on what was going to be needed. And they were very tight-lipped until the final end when they said, okay, well, you got to maintain 60-degree water. So there was a lot of conditions that happened. We'll only let you draw down this much. But that wasn't until I'll call it the 11th hour of the process. It's not very open and transparent. We'd all kind of like to have more input up front from them.
I'll call on Administrator Witt.
Yeah, one clarifying question. Can the county or one of the dam owners revoke their approval after the DNR has issued the permit?
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
And how does the drawdown physically happen? Who does the drawdown?
So we've had a very long-standing relationship going back into the 60s, and part of that relationship, the county is only a financial partner, and the city is the actual operator of the dam. So it would actually take the city staff to go out there and manually open the dam in order for it to happen. So and I should clarify that once the DNR was to approve a drawdown, whatever it might be, and that we've got ordered water levels. So we got a normal water level that's ordered by the DNR, and basically we're asking to reduce that minimum water level down. The DNR doesn't order us that just because we applied for the permit that now we have to do the drawdown. So it's still up to the county and the other dam owners.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Supervisor? And Summerlin?
Thank you, Chair. So how sure are we that if we hold off until our September meeting, they won't have already started before then? And how certain are we that they're going to allow us to vote again? Or how certain are you that they're going to say, well, you own the dam, if you say no, it's no?
So I do have an email and that from Ben Cook, which he is our water management engineer. He's the one that we work on our other 10 earthen dams with. And that same email was provided to Hudson as well. And it says right in there that yes, the county does retain the ability to not proceed with the drawdown at any time. The only time that we're walking into the actual drawdown is once the gate gets open, then we're kind of committed.
But being that you mentioned that the city of Hudson would probably be doing it, that they could do it the morning of the 1st, and we would be behind the ball.
Correct.
And that's the danger, I think, with postponing this decision.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, so that's the only thing, is that any one owner can withdraw, so.
Is there any further discussion or comments? Supervisor Counter?
Thank you, Chair. Chairing the Committee for Community Development, this has been a very contentious issue for all. We've had a lot of discussion back and forth for several meetings on this. First off, I want to bring out that we never intend this to be a one wins and one loses, because that nobody wins or loses in these scenarios. We all of us here want to see corrections to Lake Malilu. We all want to see it so that the water quality there can be increased and things happen in a positive way. The question comes, though, in the process and how this was brought about. Some of the issues that we have is that there has been a lot of conflicting information between the Stantec preliminary reports that we received and that have been made public. And those reports were used primarily by all of units like the Wild River Conservancy, St. Croix Cures. A lot of them have taken those reports and used their own data to give conflicts as to what the results are for what's been happening. That didn't help us by any means to have these conflicts. One of the reports came in even that from the DNR that by doing the drawdown has a potential that it could actually increase filamentous algae, could potentially triple in the lake due to the drawdown. These are questions we really have to have hard answers to ensure. Otherwise, what's the point if you're going to not get the results that you're trying to do with this? And it was all of these things that brought our committee to have these considerations and how this is done. During our last meeting, we were concerned enough that we actually invited the Lake Malilu Association to have, we would host a meeting here and bring everybody to the table, bring St. Croix Cures, bring the Wild River Conservancy, and look at all the facts, look at all the things that are weighed in, and look at what alternatives could potentially be there that can do the job effectively with no detriment or as little detriment as possible. And that's why the decision was made to go where we were at. Once we made that, that request came out, the Lake Malibu Association were not, to my understanding, they weren't interested in having that meeting here, which was unfortunate because I think bringing everybody to the table is always the best way to do business. And so by not making any response to that, it led us to where we made the decision we did.
Does any other supervisor seek recognition? Seeing not, Westerling.
Mr. Chairman, could I suggest that we amend the resolution that's before us that would...
We already have a motion pending,
I know. Okay. So...
which we have to deal with.
do we... okay. So I'm talking about the motion itself.
We have to deal with the motion that's before us now.
Okay.
Does any other supervisor seek recognition? Seeing none, we're prepared to vote on the matter on the floor is a motion to postpone the resolution until September 1st, 2026. Motion of Supervisor Carlson fails 8 to 11. We're now in the main motion. Supervisor Fosterling, did you have a comment?
Yes, just to address this, I would like to amend the previous motion by indicating that if the drawdown could not begin until 14 days after the vote on September 1st.
I think what he's saying is a new motion to.
I think you're right. It's not relevant at this point. So,
He could make a new motion to postpone with the 14-day timeline in it if he
sure.
wishes to do so.
yeah. Could you repeat the motion you're making?
Okay, I will make that motion then. I make a new motion that we
You're amending the motion that's
amending
on the
it.
floor.
Yes, and the difference is that the new motion would resolution would indicate that the authorization to execute the drawdown would not begin until at least 14 days after the September 1st vote.
Can I clarify that motion for him? I believe,
yes.
and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you are making a motion to postpone the resolution to September 1st, 2026, with the caveat that the authorization to rescind will not occur, or the drawdown won't occur until 14 days after September 1st.
That is correct.
So that would need a second.
Is there a second to Supervisor Fosterling's motion? Supervisor Carlson seconded. Discussion. Is there any further discussion on that motion of Supervisor Fosterling? If not, Supervisor Rice.
Just on the motion before us, we have the information we need in the packet that was provided today. This is the time for the board to discuss. We have the preliminary information from Stantec. I understand additional information is going to come before us. We also have the May 7th memo. I think a copy was distributed to everyone from Community Development, our own staff and department. So to me, it just feels like we're postponing the inevitable. And I would draw everyone's attention to the second two paragraphs at the bottom of this resolution, which indicates the committee's very strong preference to work in partnership with all parties involved. So at this point, I think postponing just continues to delay the inevitable, and the committee is going to have a lot of information before you in September on data centers, on conditional use permits, and other resolutions as well. So just so you know.
Are there any other supervisors seat comment? Supervisor Erickson.
Maybe this is probably a question for Jason, but what is the process for like revoking your approval?
Basically another letter and that like we did to the DNR.
Like this?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
There's no process associated with it.
Does any other supervisor seek recognition? Supervisor Carlson.
I don't see any downside to holding the vote later. And the upside is we can get more information, because they wouldn't even have a public hearing if there wasn't more information. We can ask more questions. I've read this stuff and I'm still not sure, and I would love to hear what the DNR and Stantec have to say in their full. I would love to be able to ask them questions and hear what their answers are. And I see no downside to waiting rather than, I wouldn't say rushing into it now, but I don't see how it helps anything to go ahead and do it now. There's no harm in waiting.
Anybody else seek recognition? Supervisor.
Yeah, I think it's just a, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I think it's a matter of, this is an application that we're talking about here, not necessarily an ultimate decision. And I think we do have to have some confidence in the DNR, to make their assessment on this also. There is other information that we haven't heard yet, so what we're doing is we're essentially curtailing the process, and I think we should let the process go through.
Supervisor Shirley Carter.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but didn't you say that even if there wasn't the public hearing, there's still a plan or a possibility of still having a meeting with the bodies that are making decisions to discuss this either way? So whether or not we, either a public hearing or some sort of informational meeting that with everyone all the stakeholders in the room, am I to understand that correctly?
Correct. So the DNR will do an informational meeting. I don't know what level that is, as far as how many experts, and if that level is the same level of time or emphasis that they would do if we had a pending application with them. We didn't get into that much detail, but again, with the Stantec reports being funded by the Lake Malibu Association, if there's not a commitment, I don't know if they would continue with that report, which is what the city of Hudson is really looking for to help their decision out, is the Stantec information. And I think, there's been a lot of discrepancy in the information that's been provided on both sides, and so, the DNR benefit would be able to say, yep, and that Stantec, we do agree with you, or no, we don't agree with you, to kind of narrow that down to be factual.
Supervisor Telejohn.
It seems like we're in a hurry to get something done that doesn't need to happen this year even, is it? Why does it have to happen now at this late date?
Supervisor Telejohn, it was proposed to be a 2026 project, but it was also proposed to be a 2025 project, so it has been delayed in the past.
So why can't we delay it some more?
I'm not sure the answer on there.
If there's no further, Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm confused about who's going to be the contractee. Who's taking responsibility if the 4 municipalities are all signing off on this and something goes really wrong? Is it Stantec that's going to be liable? Is it St. Croix County and the other 3 municipalities that are going to be paying if there's lawsuits? Who is actionable? Who's taking responsibility? Wisconsin Statute, Chapter 33, provides for the people who live around a lake to form a lake district, and then they become liable. They become a taxation authority to raise money for and to do their own projects for the improvement to the water body that they live around. But in this case, who's taking the responsibility for this project?
Well, so the dam owners would have their permit or their authorization from the DNR, but the actual liability, I'd refer over to Attorney Amos with Corp Counsel. So,
I don't have the best answer for you, but obviously the county can always be sued. Whether or not we have some form of immunity against the lawsuit would depend on what was filed against the county. So I don't have a perfect answer for you today, but obviously I can get you a better answer by the end of the week.
Supervisor Hanson.
So can you hear me? We don't know if we're on the hook. We don't know if we're liable if something goes south on this thing, and this is a big one. This could go wrong, and I know that people think, oh, what could go wrong? Hasn't happened before, but this could cause property damage downstream, and I want to know if we're going to put the taxpayers in St. Croix County at risk before I'm willing to vote for this.
Supervisor Carlson.
There we go. Could we not also be liable to the Lake Association for the breach and for not taking care of the problem? It seems like they're victims of happenstance or mismanagement. I don't know what the dam breach was, but it seems to me we could be liable that side too, for not protecting the lake.
And again, the county's only one of 4 owners, so the responsibility would probably be to all the entities that are involved in the decision. But again, I can get a more detailed memo to the county board. Either way, whatever the vote goes tonight, I still think that's an information that the county board would need. I did have Administrator Witt pull up the letter from the City of Hudson. It does indicate that the City of Hudson will be having a hearing in August. So it says following the hearing and after receiving all the information, there will still be time in August for you to complete your withdrawal if desired. So I think if the City of Hudson is having a meeting in August, they can also withdraw their application. So there's more than one owner that can withdraw the application for the permit at any time.
To me, that's another reason to wait to make the vote, because I would like to know the answers to those questions before we make a final decision also.
Is there any other supervisor seeking recognition? Supervisor Schmidt.
Thank you. I'm a little uncomfortable. Oh. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I have tried my darndest over the last month since I've been on the county board. I haven't got to 5 weeks yet, but to try to really get up to speed with this, I feel a certain level of responsibility in that my district is the village and parts of North Hudson, which encompass almost all of this lakeshore of Lake Malilu. And I also want to say, and not to start spinning too many yarns, but in my career, about 45 years ago, I sat around kitchen tables with farmers that were pondering doing improvements to their facilities, and there was cost sharing and things, and they had to cover some of those expenses for manure handling and other things like that. Best practices as far as crop rotation and things. I mean, these are things that have been going on, have been encouraged, et cetera, longer than I've been around. So this didn't start happening in 2013 or 14 or any number of years. And I think somebody said it really well. I mean, we all want the water quality, regardless if it's outside our back window in Lake Malilu or, in the St. Croix River or up in, the widespread, as I'll call it, in Richmond, Mary Park or Mary Lake, further up the Willow River that I rode my bike to as a kid. and fished, and didn't know the difference between a chub and a trout, but anyway, what troubles me about some of this discussion is there's a lot of talk about the DNR, and I don't blame individuals that work at the DNR, but I think it's a process issue that because of how the agency is structured and different things, that now you have to do this application and invest a lot of money as an association to get things going and do this engineering and things for them to get engaged. So that troubles me. It's like, I feel like all of us around this horseshoe on the board are struggling with the decision process and the timing, some of which I blame on the process that we have as a bigger, unit of government, the state and things. So we have that going on. I understand, let me say that differently. My understanding from the presentation, because I watched it to the city of Hudson, it was stated numerous times they could withdraw their application at any time. If it requires a board meeting and things, any time means when they meet, not any day of the week or whatever. And we as a county board function in the same issue and timing. So all those things are factors. And I appreciate the fact that if you've invested a lot of money in living in Lake Malilu, you want it to be as good as it can be. I truly, truly do appreciate that. But the breach, if that's the reason that most of the sediment moved, didn't happen last year, the year before. And I understand it takes time to get a plan, to get money, and all these things happen. But maybe because of that amount of time, if you put things in proportion, we're really trying to jam something up here pretty fast, in my opinion. And I think the proper thing to do is get things in the right order and the right amount of sequence of time so decisions can be made. I heard several speakers say, we want to give you our engineers' data. We want to share our data. And it's like, I think to myself sitting here, what's stopping you? Why don't we already have it? So, these are all things. I might be not hearing all the conversations correctly. I'm doing my best here, and I think everybody is. So I think there's nothing wrong with saying we rescind this approval now, and we're not saying we don't ever want this drawdown to happen. I think what we're saying is we want to be educated. We want to do the best darn thing that we can do, because nobody is all win or all lose out of this. So that's my opinion on it, and thank you for the opportunity, Chair.
Supervisor Delaney.
Thank you. My comments Thank you. My comments would just have echoed the previous statement, so thank you.
I'm sorry, is there any other supervisor seeking recognition? If not, I'm going to call on the corporate counsel to repeat the motion and also indicate what a yes or no vote would mean.
So the motion is to postpone the resolution until the September 1st, 2026 county board meeting and direct the DNR that the drawdown shall not occur until 14 days after September 1st. And a yes vote would mean that you are agreeing to postpone it until September 1st. A no vote would mean that you do not want to postpone.
We're prepared to vote. The motion of Supervisor Fosterling failed 9-10. We're back on the main motion. Any discussion yet on the main motion? We've had a lot of discussion tonight. I think most of the points have been brought out. Are we prepared to vote on the main motion? So the main motion, again, I'll call on corporate counsel to describe what the main motion is and what a vote yes or no would mean.
So the main motion is a motion to approve the resolution directing staff to rescind St. Croix County's authorization for the application of the Lake Malibu drawdown. A yes vote on this resolution would mean that staff would rescind the county's authorization. A no vote would mean that the staff would not rescind the authorization.
Thank you for that. And I erred a moment ago. I missed Supervisor Rice had raised her hand apparently.
No, I just want to echo some of the things that have been said here tonight, but community development did add language to this resolution to make it very clear that we were elevating the policy of the county to improve water quality in the St. Croix River, the river that the county is named for. And that was our policy, which is consistent with our comprehensive plan. And that we also want to work in partnership with everyone in the Willow River and St. Croix River watershed. There are people that are not in this room tonight that will be affected by work that this committee is going to be doing down the road, having to do with our shoreland protection and things, people who will not be happy with some of the decisions that we recommend. But we want to recognize, we want everyone to work collaboratively with us. And appreciate the comments of everyone here tonight. Thank you very much for that.
Anybody else seeking recognition? Supervisor Erickson.
So it's accurate to say that we may or may not have the same information from the DNR if we rescind this.
Correct, because, I mean, they don't have a pending application in front of them, and so, you know, I'm sure that they probably operate similar to our department. If we don't have a completed application, we don't put as much time and emphasis in it. We'll have a concept meeting, you know, but, so they haven't come out and said that they'll engage at the same. In fact, David Resboom from the Eau Claire office has stated that they will not participate, but I'm just going off of my conversation with James Yack last Thursday that they would, so.
Thank you.
Anybody else seek recognition? Supervisor Barkalow.
Thank you, Chair. So Jason, what you're saying is that if we don't put this application in, we're not going to get the study that they would put together and recommend or not recommend this action. Is that correct?
That would be a question for the Lake Malibu Association, but the studies that Hudson wants and that would be provided by Stantec, and then that could be reviewed probably by the DNR for accuracy. And I would think that they probably wouldn't continue with those expenditures if the approval is withdrawn. So unless they're gonna try it again in the future, you know.
Supervisor Hanson.
How soon is that dam going to need major maintenance?
So our next inspection, I believe, is 2030, and that's a major inspection. And so not that it would be a reason for the drawdown, but if the drawdown was to proceed, and that I'm sure that's what we would be doing, is we would do that thorough inspection early because it'll allow us to see the dam better. So there was also some equipment upgrades that we talked about with the City of Hudson last year, that it would be a good time to do it because it's the emergency communication stuff on the dam. And so if the water level is low, there's a lot less risk of having a large event in that time frame when that equipment is being changed out. But again, that's not really basis on whether or not the drawdown should be approved or not.
So but it would make sense to actually have a process that includes planning for those types of things. And if it's going to happen sooner than 2030, the planning should take those things into account for the cost and the value of the, again, taxpayer money.
Yep.
And taking into account who's liable for mistakes and problems down the road. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there's several different plans that each dam has to have, and they have to be registered with Ben Cook with the DNR and that like emergency management plan. And the city, being that they're the operator, they have their timelines and they have the inspection reports on what needs to be done. It's been a really good partnership. I got to give a lot of credit to the city, village, and the town there's no issues. I mean, everybody gets along, nobody's taking and having financial, questions and that. It's been really working well.
Just one more follow-up, Mr. Chair, just to make sure that everybody understands what I just understood is that there will be a need for another drawdown to do this maintenance and to consider this equipment. And so we're talking about a drawdown that may not coincide with another need for a drawdown, and then we don't know what the city of Hudson needs and what the village of North Hudson needs. So there should be a strategic plan that involves all four entities, owners, and there should be critical plan method planning, that engineering style planning that involves all four owners. And so this is what we used to call in the Army ready, shoot, aim style planning. And we should put the brakes on, in my opinion, and go back to the drawing board. And we are not in a critical hurry for this. We are just in a want phase.
Does anybody else seek recognition? If not, I'm going to ask the corporate counsel one more time. This is getting very complicated as to where we are at in the process parliamentarily, to repeat what the motion is we have on the floor and what a yes or no vote would mean.
So the motion on the floor is a motion to approve resolution directing staff to rescind St. Croix County's authorization for the application of the Lake Malibu drawdown. A yes vote will direct the staff, specifically Mr. Cheeseth, to withdraw or rescind the county's authorization for the application of the drawdown. A no vote would keep the application in effect.
Any questions? If not, we're prepared to vote. The motion passes 13-6.
Thank you.
One, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight, and I think I'll just echo what so many people have said tonight. We want to work collaboratively with everybody in the future for the betterment of the water quality of St. Croix County. With that, we'll take up item 3 on our agenda, which is a resolution amending the fund balance policy related to the healthcare campus. Supervisor Telejohn, would you like to comment on that, or would you like to suggest somebody would comment on that? Okay. I believe it. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Telejohn, my apologies. Supervisor Rice from the Admin Committee.
Yes, this topic came up through the Administration Committee.
We need a motion before discussion.
I move the resolution number 19 from 2026, resolution amending fund balance policy related to healthcare campus.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I can't hear one thing.
She moved item number 3 on the agenda relative to the healthcare policy. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
A second from Supervisor Delaney. Discussion. I'll call on Supervisor Rice if she'd like to, or she can ask one member of the staff to augment it.
Yeah, this was something that was requested by Supervisor McIntosh. That Greg can't hear me. Can you hear me now? All right. This was a topic that was requested by our new Supervisor McIntosh, and this just simply, as my understanding is, just gives more flexibility into how the healthcare campus operates relative to its fund balance. So I don't know if anyone here, Ken, you'd like to expand on that, or what you'd like to say, but that's what the simple resolution is. Supervisor Hanson.
Supervisor Hanson.
On the resolution, I don't see a percentage listed, and I'm also curious how this fund balance differs from the Transportation Department, where their fund balance doesn't kick back to the County Board General Fund.
No, the resolution is adopting the amendment. The amendment is highlighted in red here. So it's setting that parameter for the healthcare campus, similar to the highway department fund balance. They have a fund balance there also. They don't have an automatic kickback feature to the KIP like the healthcare campus does. But the healthcare campus, especially since the new Medicaid rates came in, is really very profitable, whereas the transportation, Robbie spends all of his money. So that's the difference between the two funds. I mean, but technically, any fund that accumulates too much fund balance, the county board can come in and reallocate those funds, other than the debt service fund. Can reallocate those funds. It's just anticipated that the current trajectory to the healthcare campus, that it's going to continue to do so.
So the building now is, what, 14 years old, 13 years old? They're going to start seeing capital needs that are unforeseen. And as they make these contributions, how flexible are we going to be? Because that's going to come up.
Yeah. So it actually creates more flexibility for them on that, because, so say they have $500,000 of excess in any given year. You'd come in and say, okay, well, that's 500 over your limit, we'll move that 500 off. The next year, their financials end up about the same way. They would have 500,000 extra, but they decided to replace the sidewalks or something like that for 200,000. They would just use that money then to spend down. Now they only have 300,000 left over. So only 300,000 will move out. So they're able to satisfy all of their needs before the excess is redistributed for other uses.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion on this resolution?
When I was in the Navy, each submarine would get amount of money, and if we didn't spend it, it went back. And what happened was we all went shopping at the end of each year. And I'm not saying the healthcare campus would do that, but I mean, that's kind of what I've noticed in the past. I'm not sure if I like that. I predict at the end of the year, there'll never be any extra then.
Yeah, I saw the same thing in the Army. The only difference, though, is I wasn't your submarine skipper boat captain. So our departments have really a lot of that same practice. They have a bottom line of their department cost center that they have to stay in the black. If they don't, they get a talking to by the county administrator, and nobody wants that. So they all tend to do that. But we actually have really good department heads that are conscious of the expenses, and they're not out looking to spend all of their money. They turn the money back over. That goes into the unassigned fund balance every year. We're reallocating those funds. And I trust our staff to be doing that, because if they were out trying to spend money just to spend it, I would notice.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? Oh, Supervisor Erickson.
I just have a question, just so I'm understanding. So, if we didn't proceed with this, does the levy drop for the taxpayer?
It doesn't drop. Doing this will actually raise the levy going into the next budget year by 3 cents per $1,000. Because what I'm doing is I'm taking it off of an automatic reallocation to the debt service fund, which is where that 3 cents then comes in. So we're acknowledging that we're going to spend 3 cents more on debt service fund. The benefit of it, though, is we're going to use that money instead and spend it in the capital improvement fund, which we're going to go over on Thursday. And if you look ahead to those notes, year 5 out there has a negative $2 million balance. So I'm looking for a different way to get money into the KIP in order for us to avoid new debt. So instead of prepaying the debt that we have, I want to avoid future debt. So it's just, where do you want to spend the money? So that's the policy decision that's before you.
Thank you.
And And there's nothing preventing you from allocating some of the capital funds towards debt relief.
Yeah, absolutely. It just says that it's recommended here that it go to the capital improvement fund, but the county board makes the decisions. So you could say, well, you know, there's actually more than we thought. It's not 500,000 this year, it's 1.5 million this year. So why don't we allocate 500,000 to the debt service fund and we'll allocate $1 million to the capital improvement fund. So the county board still has that flexibility every year in August to make those decisions.
Supervisor.
Just wanted to point out just how valuable of a resource that the healthcare campus is for our community, especially with an aging population that we have. You know, it's not under threat at this minute, but things are very unknown, kind of beyond our scope here at the county. So for the cost of a meal at Culver's, we could, you know, strengthen the health of the healthcare campus and reinvest in our county.
Thank you, Supervisor McIntosh. Is there any other comment? Seeing none, we're prepared to vote. The vote on that resolution, it was adopted 18-1. The next item on our agenda is item number 4, resolution amending personnel policies. I'll again call on Supervisor Rice, and she can call on our personnel director if you'd like.
Yes, the motion here is to, the resolution is amending personnel policies as outlined here in the resolution. I think I need a second.
Is there a second? Second from Supervisor Counter. Should we call him Aubrey?
I'll invite Audrey up if you'd like to speak here.
Sure. So there's 3 policies, starting with the IT acceptable use policy. The addition really focuses on protecting ourselves from threat and strengthening the county's cybersecurity practices. We added several different revisions prohibiting the use of county credentials on unverified websites or unauthorized login requests, mandating completion of cybersecurity and phishing awareness training, safeguarding usernames and passwords, and recognizing and avoiding phishing attempts, malware, and other fraudulent activity. For the benefits policy, the main revisions clarified benefit eligibility and enrollment procedures. Really, we focused on defining eligibility parameters for different benefit types, such as hours worked or eligibility, FTE eligibility. So different benefits, some of them go into effect by how many hours you work, and others are just based on your FTE assigned to you, regardless of how many hours you're working. And then also we clarified that the employees determined eligible for health insurance under ACA measurement rules remain eligible through the applicable stability period unless employment terminates. And that kind of leads into the next one, which is our personal leave of absence policy, which really, the new rules that we added in there were regarding health insurance and ACA look-back regulations and the stability rules that follow that. So if an employee is on a leave and goes into an unpaid situation, how does that impact their health insurance benefits? And so we just restructured that health insurance can be treated a little bit differently than under other benefits under the plan if you go out on a leave of absence. And just provided some more guidance to employees on what that looks like if they were to be on an approved leave. Questions?
Any questions for Ms. Haycraft? Supervisor Bechtel.
So what are the pros and cons? Which way?
Pros are mainly beneficial to the employees. less beneficial to the county a little bit. So, and that's mainly regarding the personal leave of absence and the health insurance structure on that. Previously, we were, if an employee went into an unpaid status, we would put them on COBRA coverage. So at the end of the month, if they didn't return to work. So we're still offering them health insurance, but it's at an elevated full cost rate. The employer would no longer pay towards their medical insurance, although they did have the opportunity to keep it if they wanted to. Under the new structure, we are considering them still to be basically active employees on a leave. And so we would continue to pay a portion. So we just follow the ACA guidelines that shows it has to have a minimum contribution amount. Or a maximum amount that an employee can spend on insurance to still make it affordable under the Affordable Care Act. So the county will take on more of the cost associated with employees on leave who do want to keep their health insurance. With that being said, personal leaves don't happen very often, maybe once, twice a year, where somebody would be approved for a personal leave and go into an unpaid status and where we'd have to deal with this type of situation. IT, that is protecting ourselves and the employees. And it was based off of a situation that actually occurred where an outside source did try and send us a scam email that was clicked on and credentials put in. A learning moment for all of us to, look at the severity of what could have possibly happened and how much expense that would have cost the county. So we wanted to just make sure that we were covering ourselves in policy to ensure that the employees understand the importance of taking your time, doing your training, understanding the cybersecurity threats that are out there and how to avoid those. So, but other than that, that's kind of the main employer concerns.
Are there any other questions for Audrey? Supervisor Frostling.
So just to go back to your point of leave of absence, so could you kind of give an example of a leave of absence where this would apply? Because it seems like it's extremely rare and unusual.
It is. Typically, it is either for someone who is too new and hasn't worked enough hours to qualify for a Family Medical Leave Act under the federal guidelines and law. And so most employees that need to be off work qualify under FMLA, and then their benefits and their pay and their position are protected under that leave. For those that aren't, because you have to be employed for at least a year and have so many hours worked to qualify for that leave, their other option then is a personal leave of absence. And usually it's due to a medical need that they just don't qualify for that FMLA. The other part is maybe they've used up their FMLA and their heal time is taking longer. They haven't been able to return to work after their 12 weeks, and they need to extend that leave out for another 4 or 8 weeks. We would usually extend a personal leave in those situations as well.
It's also monetarily that they're probably on the lower end of the pay scale and they have the higher end of the health insurance plan cost because it's a percentage of the total.
Right. The affordability factor is based on their rate of pay.
Right.
And that
So again,
changes
all
each
those
year.
factors would have to line up for it to apply, but it's the law, I guess.
Supervisor Rubush.
Just a follow-up question on that. Does the county have a leave share policy where you can give your leave to someone that's in need?
Yes, we do. PTO donation policy.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
If there are no further questions or observations, we are prepared to vote on the resolution to adopt amending personnel policies. This resolution is adopted 19-0. Thank you, Aubrey. The next item on the agenda, we have two items left. Resolution amending the rules of the Board of Supervisors and a resolution dealing with the Code of Ethics. They're a little bit intertwined, and I'm going to call on Supervisor, they both came out of the Admin Committee, so I'll call on Supervisor Rice if she would like to make a motion to bring the first one before the floor, the resolution amending the rules of the Board of Supervisors.
I move that on the resolution amending the rules of the Board of Supervisors.
Second. Second, Supervisor Rice.
I'll look for Chair Fiedler to make comments because we did work collaboratively both as a committee and together. I just view that we've modernized our rules. In the past, there was, kind of patching on, making additional rules. This current one has a tone of, I think, professionalism that runs throughout, and it's more consistent. We use the Wisconsin Counties Association model and made a few modifications to that. So I would urge you to adopt this, and also know that if you are, I joke that I'm an analog person, I like things in paper, that once whatever we choose to resolve is done, the county will provide you with a paper version if you prefer that. So I'll just say that.
And I would concur in the remarks of Supervisor Rice. This does follow the WCA recommendations and the Americans with Disabilities Act format. And we had a very good discussion of this. Was it somebody else seeking recognition? Oh, Supervisor Delaney.
Yes, I would like to make an amendment to Rule 1.03 and just change the language to state and the priorities of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors instead of stating the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors priorities.
So where?
It's just changing.
Could you repeat that?
Certainly. I wanted to change Rule 1.03 to read, this is the first sentence, the role of the county board is to set the strategic mission and priorities for the county. Oh, wait. Where is it? Yeah. Okay, it's kind of in that broken part. And St. Croix County rules of the Board of Supervisors priorities. I just want to change that language to, and the priorities of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. I just found it difficult to read.
I think, Supervisor Delaney, are you indicating that the footnote there on the bottom, that's just the title of the document? So this.
Oh, that's why I couldn't read it. Okay.
Yeah. So the
I withdraw my amendment. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I was like,
I just wanted to concur in the chairman's comments on that. Thank you, Supervisor Delaney.
Yeah,
No, that's okay. It's hard to read sometimes. I would ask our corporate counsel to comment on at least one item that relates to the next item, but it really relates to the Board of Supervisors as to how the new board rules would apply to the Board of Supervisors. So I'd ask our corporate counsel to comment on that.
I'm just wondering, with, I've seen it before, but maybe, and perhaps you can speak to it, what the executive committee, what the goal is behind that? Okay.
That's precisely what I was
Okay,
asking.
then I'm done.
Nope, thank you, Supervisor Shirley-Carter.
So one of the changes that we made to the rules, and then you'll see also in the Code of Ethics, is we created, excuse me, we created an executive committee. And the executive committee, this can be found in section 2.05. So the executive committee is made up of the chair of the county board, the vice chair of the county board, and the chairs of the 5 standing committees, which would include the Health and Human Services Board, Administration Committee, Transportation Committee, Community Development Committee, and Public Protection and Judiciary. So also in these rules, we added what we're referring to as the rules of conduct. So we're differentiating between rules of conduct of county board supervisors in this document. The Code of Ethics governs not only the county board supervisors, but also employees and elected officials. And that Chapter 90, which we'll get to next, deals more with like financial conflicts of interest, violations of political activity, where the rules of conduct in this new rewritten rules, which is section 2.12, addresses the conduct of the county board supervisors solely. The executive committee then will address any complaints that are filed against a county board supervisor for the rules of conduct. So basically, the county board supervisors are policing themselves. So ensuring that you're following these rules of conduct, and if there is a complaint, then the executive committee, which is made up of county board supervisors, will address that complaint. So the rules of conduct, if I can just get to that page really quick, indicates that the board members should uphold the oath of office, act in the best interests of the St. Croix County at all times, refrain from conduct which a reasonable person would deem offensive, be responsive to the needs of community, represent the interests of your constituents, and conduct government business in a manner consistent with law, and refrain from violating open meetings law, basically. So these new rules of conduct would then be addressed if there was a complaint by the executive committee, which is different than Chapter 90, the Code of Ethics. The Ethics Board, which is 3 independent citizens, would address any ethical violations. So that's the main difference that we added in these rules. That was quite different than our previous rules. We didn't have an executive committee, and we didn't have rules of conduct for county board supervisors. That section was recommended to be added to the rules by the Wisconsin Counties Association, so that, again, the supervisors are policing themselves in terms of conduct. That's the most probably biggest addition to the rules. Most of the rules obviously just came over from the old rules, so public comment is the same, the agenda's the same. We did add a section in section 4.05, refraining from the use of personal cell phones during meetings. Basically, that's just to comply with open meetings law. We don't want people texting each other during meetings about something that's on the board floor. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you can take that call. There was also changes from the administration committee regarding virtual appearance. As most of you know, right now the rules say each supervisor can attend a meeting virtually 2 times per term. Now that is open-ended, so there's no prohibition against, if you want to appear virtually 3 times, 4 times, you just need to obtain that permission from the chair. So those are the biggest changes. If anybody has any specific questions, I can try to answer them.
Supervisor Carlson, and then Supervisor Hanson.
My question is about personal electronic devices. I use mine constantly, like when our administrator says mill rate, I'm like, okay, what's mill rate? Sometimes I use, when I'm having a hard time hearing, I use a transcribe, so I can read it and hear it and make it easier for me. So would I be prohibited from doing those kinds of things? Because I really use it a lot.
No, so the paragraph indicates that all county board members shall silence their mobile phones, so we won't have like them dinging if a text message or ringing if a call comes in. Such devices may not be used during any such meeting except in the event of emergency or with permission of the chair. And it doesn't preclude you from recording open session portions. The purpose of the section was to make sure that people weren't communicating with each other like supervisor to supervisor, but for those accommodations, like you indicated, to help you answer questions, things like that, that's allowed. That wasn't the intent of this section. If anybody thinks additional language needs to be added.
And I can also assure Supervisor Carlson that for the examples he gave, I would definitely give permission for you to use your phone for those purposes. It was just meant not to facilitate, I'll just say, secretive communications between members when an issue has been in front of us that wasn't being done in public pursuant to the laws that make us do things in public. But you'd have no problem doing the things you suggested.
All right, thank you.
Was it Supervisor Hanson? Supervisor.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing that Supervisor Carlson did. I use my phone as a computer all the time. I was researching here today, Wisconsin statute, and using AI to ask what lakes have organized in Chapter 33 lake districts and other relevant topics concerning debate here today, so that I could understand and stay current in topics that were pertinent to today's debate. If I can't use this device, I'll have to add another computer here because I can't have this one on the internet. So what's the verdict on that?
Well, the administrator is saying that the corporate counsel may have a suggested amendment.
I think we could change that language, the second sentence to say, such devices may not be used for communication purposes with other supervisors during any such meetings. If that would, because that's the intent of the paragraph. We don't want to violate the open meetings law. If you have to text your husband that you're going to be late 2 hours for supper, that's appropriate, but we were trying to avoid the open meetings violation. So if someone would like to make a motion to change that language, I think that's appropriate.
Supervisor Barclay, are you going to make that motion?
Yes, I'd like to
Okay.
adopt that motion to change the wording for 405, number 1, that such devices may not be used to communicate with other supervisors during meetings.
Is there a second? Supervisor Counter? Supervisor Counter seconds? Any discussion? Hearing none, I think we can do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The motion's adopted. Is there any further discussion on the main motion to adopt the new rules of the board? Seeing none, we're prepared to vote. That motion to adopt the new board rules is adopted 19-0, and I just want to thank Chairman Rice for the long, hard hours she put into this, as well as especially our corporate counsel for all the work she and her staff did on this. So thank you very much, folks. Our last item on the agenda tonight, the last item on the business agenda, is also a critical item. It's amending the ordinance dealing with Chapter 90, our Code of Ethics. And again, I'll call on Chairman Rice to bring that before us.
Move ordinance repealing and recreating Chapter 90 Code of Ethics of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances.
Is there a second? Second, Supervisor Hanson. Discussion.
Go ahead.
Corporate counsel?
So this is a rewrite of the Code of Ethics. Having to put our previous code into practice, I realize there are several inconsistent statutory requirements, unclear application of the law, and it was insufficient to allow the Ethics Board to actually utilize the ordinance fairly. So I believe that we needed to rewrite the entire code. We started with updating the definitions, making them consistent with statute. Instead of calling it the Ethics Inquiry Board, we just now are calling it the Ethics Board. The same provisions regarding the membership of the Ethics Board remains the same. But this ethics code would be dealing with issues regarding conflicts of interest, regarding any county board supervisor, employee, or elected official using their position for financial gain, and any employee that uses their position for political activities such as campaigning or circulating nomination papers on work time could be an ethical violation that then the Ethics Board would address. The Ethics Board is made up of 3 members and 1 alternate, and one of those members has to be a lawyer. Licensed to practice in the state of Wisconsin, but otherwise all the rest of the code just clearly indicates, what's the standard that the ethics board must follow, timelines for all the complaints to be filed, a review by corporation counsel to make sure they meet all the requirements of the code, then the investigation and powers of the ethics board, and then how those things proceed. Basically, then the disposition section, which would be on page 8, indicates that the ethics board, after it goes through all its hearings, would issue a written decision, and depending on what they find in terms of whether there's an ethics violation, would result in where the matter would go. So if a county employee violated the ethics code, the county administrator would address what would happen to that individual. If there's matters involving allegations against the county administrator, the administration committee would then address those issues. For matters involving constitutional officers, there's different statutes depending on who violated the code of ethics. And then if it is an issue involving the county board supervisors, then the county board would ultimately make that decision based on the recommendation of the ethics board. So hopefully this rewrite will provide a better framework if there are any ethical violations in the future, and create less questions for anybody that might have a complaint filed against them.
I would just say again, this is a major rewrite of our ethics code. It was desperately needed. The corporate counsel worked for months on this, seeking best practices for many, many different counties across the state, having extensive conversations with numerous supervisors about their opinion on different things. And I think it's a great product, and it came out 5-0 out of the admin committee. And are there any further comments that people would like to make? Supervisor Delaney.
Okay, this is probably strike number 2. But I'm just curious, for the members of the public, how are they compensated?
They do receive per diems, the same per diems that the county board supervisors receive.
Okay, I was just curious if that had to be in the code or not.
It's in our other rules that any citizen members get the same per diems as the county board supervisors.
And the good news is that we've very rarely had to exercise the Board of Ethics. That's the very good news. So we've got some great rules now, but hopefully we'll continue to not have to utilize them. Have we any other comments, or are we prepared to vote? We're prepared to vote, I believe, so we'll vote. The vote on the motion to adopt the new ethics code is adopted 19-0. And thank everybody. And again, thanks to the admin chair and the corporate counsel for incredible work on those 2 issues that we just completed. That completes our business agenda. Next item on the agenda is requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests? Seeing none, we go to the next agenda item, announcements. Are there any announcements? Supervisor Telejohn.
Yes, I just want to make an announcement that I've been appointed to the Health and Human Services Steering Committee on the Wisconsin Counties Association. My first meeting will be on Monday, the 13th.
And I'll just follow up on that. And I've also been appointed to the administration committee of the WCA, and our first meeting, I believe, is on July 17th. So these are the committees of the WCA that we can all join if we would like to, and I would encourage that. Supervisor Hanson.
Well, I would like to say I've been appointed to the WCA Transportation Steering Committee, but who's going to announce the county fair?
Yeah.
Okay, then I won't. But I've got one other thing. Does anybody here know David Osnes? All right. Dave Osnes has been, he's going to receive an award at the county fair on Saturday, July 17. I just let part of your deal out of the bag. I'm sorry. On Saturday, July 17. Now, Dave, very special friend of mine, he's going to get an award to be the Volunteer of the Year, but he's really kind of the Volunteer of the Decade. And he was a county board supervisor for 6 years before I was elected in 2014. And he was a county board supervisor until he had to resign about a year ago. And I miss him. And if you knew him at all and you have time on Saturday, July 17, I don't remember the time this thing's going to happen, and I have to get him there, so I better figure it out. But if you had time, I'll ask the clerk to send a memo around announcing when this happens. So it would be great to have some colleagues there, and I'll talk to some people who are on the board with him. So please help me remember Dave, and I'll let you tell the rest of that story.
Before I call on Supervisor Swanepoel for the rest of the story and a comment on the county fair, I just want to echo what Supervisor Hanson said about Supervisor Osnes. He was a great member of this body for many, many years.
All right,
Swanepoel.
invite you all to come to the St. Croix County Fair, which happens to be in my hometown of Glenwood City. I usually work at the KC stand on Saturday night, so come on in and see me.
What are the dates?
The date of what?
The date of the whole fair.
I'm not.
Thank you for that announcement. And Supervisor Delaney.
And I just wanted to announce that I'm going to serve on the steering committee for the WCA for the UW extension. So thank you.
Great. So we have good participation. Thank you to everybody. Are there any further announcements?
Don't forget the meeting for Thursday.
Oh, I'm sorry. So just a reminder, we have our Committee of the Whole meeting this coming Thursday, 2 days from now, beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock in the morning. And we've got, the administrator has been working very hard on his presentation on this, but it's a major meeting. We're going to be deciding probably our very last major financial questions that we'll have for a decade. But they will be on the agenda for Tuesday for consideration, not necessarily a vote, but we'll be giving some guidance to the administrator. And so I look forward to seeing everybody again Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, and we'll move through that as quickly as we reasonably can. But again, it'll be 2 major financial decisions, and then we're going to take a reasonable amount of time to go through the rest of the capital improvements projects. And for the benefit of the new people, we're going to comment a little more extensively on some of those that some of the older members have seen a couple of times, but I think it'll be worthwhile to go through it at least one time like that for the benefit of everybody. So with that, are there any, Supervisor?
Bob, are you bringing Egg McMuffins or Quick Chip?
Or we could call it Supervisor Barcalow did. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, again, we'll meet Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, but we're adjourned as a board now till 1 September. Thank you.
Yeah.